like broke up the seasons and the 13th Sabbaths and the consecutive pattern of each season. That's like absolutely just perfect.
Yeah, I downloaded it so I can show it in a image here. Give me just a moment. All right, we started the recording, so yeah, I got that image downloaded, and actually you can see that same pattern in the calendar as well. Every 3 months, it repeats the same thing. Like month 1, 2, and 3 are going to be the same.
Yeah.
Like month 4, 5, and 6, it's all the same like layout.
Yeah.
Okay, so Miranda, yeah, tell us what you found here.
Okay. So, those who were on the call on Wednesday, Jeremy was going over the flood account, and when Yah had closed the door on the ark and the flooding of the windows of heaven started pouring down and the great deeps were broken. And that was on the 17th of the second month. And I go through Jubilees quite often because I always find something else that just, applies and, with newer eyes. And remember that was the same day that Hasatan had deceived Eve in the garden, was the second month of the 17th day of that month. And so I was also reminded of the verse where, if we don't follow Yah's true calendar, then we're going to err and we're going to make an unclean day, a clean day, and a clean day, an unclean day. And so the 17th sounds like an unclean day. And so I was thinking on the Gregorian, how many Sabbaths have we been observing on that unclean day on the Gregorian calendar? And so I wrote down all the Sabbaths that Jeremy had put in his calendar and so wrote down the first month Sabbath, second month Sabbath, third month Sabbaths, and after each season, they're all going to basically restart and go in the same exact pattern. And it never, ever will fall on the 17th on his calendar. His Sabbath won't. And 13th Sabbaths is completed in each season, which that would be, 13 weeks. And so the first month, the fourth month, seventh month, and 10th month, the Sabbaths are all going to be on the 4th of that month. The same thing with the 2nd, 5th, 8th, and 11th. They're all going to be on the 2nd, 9th, 16th, 23rd, and 30th. On the 3rd, 6th, 9th, and 12th, they're all going to be on the 7th, 14th, 21st, and 28th. And that equals 52 Sabbaths that make a complete, that complete that whole year.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then Adrian had said, because then I also said, so the 17th of the second month, and I'm going to use a Gregorian term here, that would have been like a Sunday, okay? So if we celebrate, that would have been, that would have been the first day of the week. Or the Sabbath was before that judgment day, like when the floods got released. And so then Adrian had said,
so then the floods came on the 8th day.
Yeah.
which would have been like Yah's judgment day. The day of Yahuwah is the 8th day, the wrath of
Yeah.
Yah.
Yeah. Where he was, eradicating all the sin and abominable things that were happening.
So they were in the ark on the 8th day,
Yes.
and it was their circumcision, their rebirth, their renewal,
Yep.
while everybody else was being judged.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
You know what verse in Jubilees that it shows that? The sister was asking in chat. Where
Hold on. Let me go.
we're Aiden to Eve.
Wait, I'm sorry. We're what?
The 17th day of the second month.
Oh, what verse in
Where
Jubilees? Yeah, hold
since,
on. Let me get my book.
yeah, no worries. Yeah, and because Sister Claire asked, do you have the scripture for this also to show people who don't believe in reading Jubilees? And unfortunately, there is a lot of people who toss out the Book of Jubilees. Excuse me. And it's because a lot of times it doesn't fit their moon calendar or their calendar that they want to use. And they say it adds to scriptures and so forth and so on. And yeah, exactly. Or it breaks their Sabbath rules that they want to say are acceptable and aren't. But we can go over that a little bit today as well to show the Book of Jubilees. We did that in I think our last Sabbath discussion. We went over the Book of Enoch and Jubilees, kind of comparing them to all the scriptures. And it's also going to be in the pinned article I have in our other chat as well.
Okay, so in the 8th chapter of Jubilees, I know that depending on what version everybody has, it might be different. I have the R. Charles version, and chapter 8.
Yes, a sec. Let me pull it up here real quick.
Okay. Yeah, I believe it's chapter 8. Is when they start talking about the flood. And so when you look down, Jeremy had said or had read that he entered in the 6th year thereof, in the 2nd month, on the head of the 2nd month until the 16th. Okay, so until Sabbath. Because again, when you look at the calendar that we're presented with, the 16th would have fallen on a Sabbath. And he had closed them in, and then on the 17th is when the evening of the 17th, so still the 17th, but on the evening of the 17th, that's when he opened up the floodgates of heaven and the great fountains of the deep. And so that day would have been, like Adrian said, that would have been the day after. So that would have been the day after Sabbath. That would have been like the 8th great day, and it doesn't say that, but when we apply it to the creation standard of the week that we're presented with in creation, of like, and then like what, like post millennial reign, 8th day kind of thing, again, it fits because it is a day of like cleansing. So sorry, did I explain that okay? I didn't.
Yeah, that was really good.
Okay.
Yeah. Great find.
Yeah.
Great find. Awesome, sisters. Really. Just more confirmation.
Well, like you said, there's keys in the flood, and that's just, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah, it can all be seen in the calendar as well. Like, here, I'll go through it a little bit. So we got month 1. It's always going to start on day 4. And then there's going to be 2, which is always going to start day 6. And then month 3 starts day 1. And then we come back month 4, day 4. And it's that same pattern. Day 6, day 1. And then we come back here, day 4, day 6, day 1. And it's that same pattern all year long. Why? Because Yahuwah likes order in things. So every month is going to be the same order.
Right. And if you are following y'all's calendar, you're not going to miss the Sabbath. It'll be extremely easy to track because each new season, each month is going to be on the same day. It's just going to repeat, 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 repeat.
Correct. Well, pretty awesome find there, sister. Thank you for sharing.
All glory to Yah.
Praise Yah. So yeah, I wanted to go over, just review some of the verses we have found to show this divider day that happens every year, and then the second one that happens every 4 years. Yeah, exactly. There, brother. Yeah, a lot is hidden in the high priestly garments, which you're referring to the stars, right? I believe. So here in Genesis 1, and it's going to be verses 1 through 5. So this is going to be the darkness that is happening before the marker for day 1, which is the light. This is going to be the divider day that happens at the beginning of each year, because this is when creation week is resetting each year. This is the marker. So in the beginning, Elohim created the Shamayim and the earth came to be formless and empty, and darkness was on the face of the deep. And the Ruach of Elohim was moving on the face of the waters. So this is that emptiness, voidness, darkness that existed. And then Elohim said, "Let light come to be." And the light came to be. And Elohim saw the light that it was good. And Elohim separated the light from the darkness. And Elohim called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there came to be evening, and there came to be morning, day 1. So we see the light marker that's starting the count for day 1. So it's when the light came to be. Now notice in here, it's when the light came to be. So this is when it was fully light, and this is going to be the pattern that we see going into the days. So when the light came to be, it doesn't say there was a mixing or anything like that. It was fully light, and it came to be. So this is going to be the pattern when the day is going to begin. It's going to be when the sun is fully risen in the sky, like right there at daybreak, just as it's come to be fully risen.
Yeah. So we have a bunch of people coming out and saying that it starts at dawn, right, Jeremy? It's the covenant calendar that we were checking out, and they're very adamant that it is at dawn. But how could you reconcile that with like the first couple verses in Genesis, right? Yah worked, then came evening, then morning, one day. What's in between evening and morning? Night. So that's one day. Morning is included. So what's dawn? Is dawn like the first, you know, what are they saying dawn is?
They're saying, that first light you see before the sun rises, that's when a day starts, and so forth. Well,
That can't be, right? Because we have the morning included in with y'all working, evening, then morning, and then boom, one day.
yeah. And right here in verse 3, let light come to be. It wasn't a mixing of darkness and light. It was fully light. Like Marissa said, flipping on a light switch.
Isn't dawn just like a basically a transition word, just like evening is?
Yeah, precisely. It's the transition, or it's the dividing of the night and the day. Just like, Yahuwah works in divisions. That's the whole thing of the scriptures. That's the whole context of the scriptures, is these
But they're,
divisions.
yeah, they would say, oh, well, that light was Messiah, not the luminary. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, we also see in Matthew 28, in the end of the Sabbath, as it began to dawn toward the first day of the week.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good point, actually. As it's dawning, it's saying, before the first day of the week. So at dawn is still just before. It's because, when you read it in context, you see the sun has to be fully risen in the sky, like it breaking the horizon. So it
Anyone
just
else?
shows,
Anyone
go
else to
ahead.
add to that? Anyone else have anything to add? Any scripture?
Yeah, Sister Adrian says the overlap space before the
Yes.
sun rises.
Feel free
Yeah.
to jump on. What, Adrian? What do you have?
I was just going with how I see everything overlaps. That dawn is that overlap space right before the sun rises. I don't know if anyone's been out before the sun rises, but right before it, it gets like really cold right before the sun rises. And it's just kind of like this overlap that's like this breath of air that says, okay, now the sun comes up. But I see Yah overlapping his years, his days, his weeks with it and making it
Yeah.
seamless.
That's the point that we're trying to make with the division of the year, right? Dividing the
Right.
year. Day one.
Right. That divider day is still in the count
Yep.
of completing the year, but it's overlapping saying, hey, creation week is starting. Now start
Right.
looking for your signs. It's our sign
Right.
before
So
the sign.
exactly. So we have a dividing between day and a night, and that's a blending of evening and morning. So as a holy day does not touch a holy day doesn't touch an unholy day, and we see it in our year. So that 364 is separate from day one. He's all about, separating.
And
Yeah.
then isn't it also
Divisions.
with being cleansed too? Like you're not cleansed until the evening, as in like during that separation period too, usually with people that whether it was their, like if they had a disease or if they needed to be washed or something, they weren't clean until evening during the dividing time.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. It,
Mm.
they were unclean until evening because of that division of time, it's dividing it. So you're unclean until the evening, so that way your uncleanness isn't touching the next day, All right, let's get into. So in Genesis 5, verses 23 and 24, this is going to be Enoch walking the earth for 365 years. So the divider day would be, quote unquote, the 365th day, which is pretty intriguing, I think. So Genesis 5:23 and 24. So all the days of Hanok were 365 years, and Hanok walked with Elohim. Then he was no more, for Elohim took him. Jubilees 2:9, we're going to see it's speaking that the sun is the great sign for the days, the weeks, months, years, and jubilees. So Jubilees chapter 2 verse 9. And Elohim appointed the sun to be a great sign on the earth for days, for Sabbaths, for months, for festivals, for years, and for Sabbaths of years, and for jubilees, and for all seasons of the year. So in the same chapter of Jubilees, chapter 2, this is going to be verses 20 and 21. So this is going to show us the sun marker, the heavenly marker that the sun gives, is also the straight line method, which is also day 4. So, and I have chosen the seed of Jacob from among all that I have seen, and I have written him down as my firstborn son, and have kadosh him unto myself forever and ever. And I shall teach them the Sabbath day, that they may guard the Sabbath thereon from all work. And he so created therein a sign. So what's the sign? Well, if we go back to verse 9, it's the sun. So he created a sign, the sun, in accordance with which they should guard the Sabbath with us on the 7th day, to eat and drink. And Baruch him who has created all matters, as he has Baruch and Kodesh unto himself, a treasured possession, a people above all peoples, and that they should guard the Sabbath together with us. This is pretty important here, because if it was always just the 1 through 7 repeat cycle every single year without that divider, why would there be a need to emphasize, they should guard it together with us in the heavens? I think this is showing, it's just confirming this division that happens between each and every year. And so Job chapter 3, which is going to be the divider day, which is alluded to, and it's Job's day of birth. So after this, Job opened his mouth and cursed the day of his birth. And Job spoke and said, Let the day perish on which I was born, and the night it was said, A male child has been conceived. Let that day be darkness. Let not Eloah from above seek for it, nor let light shine upon it. Let darkness and the shadow of death buy it back. Let a cloud dwell on it. Let all that blackens the day frighten it. That night let darkness seize it. Let it not be included among the days of the year. Let it not come into the number of months. Look, let that night be silent. Let no singing coming into it. Also Job chapter 38. This is going to be verses 4 and 5. So where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? Declare if you have understanding. Who appointed its measurements, if you know, or who stretched a line upon it? So sun marker, equinox, day 4, straight line. Job 38, verse 19, Where is the way to the dwelling of light? And darkness, where is its place? That you should take it to its boundary, and know the paths of its home. Do you know? For you would have been born then, and the number of your days been many. So this is more allusions to the sun marker, equinox, day 4, or the straight line method.
Hey, is there any questions so far? Anyone want to add anything here?
Yeah.
Yeah, reread Job 3. I'll read it. Let the day perish on which I was born, and the night it was said, a male child has been conceived. And the night it was said. So we're looking at 2 different days there just in that verse alone.
In Job 3?
Yeah, and it's interesting because, like, I know we put, like, the 2 days out of time together, but I wonder, I don't know if that's alluding to the placement of them.
Interesting. Yeah, we'll have to look more into that, actually. Good question, or good observation.
Yeah, I just, like, heard it as you were reading it.
That's how it
Awesome.
works for me. Yeah, that's how it works for me, too. Sometimes you got to hear it a bunch, and then you're like, wait.
Yeah, could you actually say it one more time for me? I have to hear it
In
twice.
Job 3:3, it says, let the day perish on which I was born, and the night it was said, a male child has been conceived.
Ooh. Ooh.
So the conceived date and the actual date he was born are alluding to 2 different days, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, very good catch. Interesting. Yeah, I see your verse there, Brother Lee. Exodus 28:32. And let the opening for his head, and the opening for his head shall be in the middle of it, a woven binding all around its opening, like the opening in scaled armor, so that it does not tear. So yeah, interesting. So that's alluding to day 4 as well, right there, right? Is that what you're saying, brother?
Yeah, please feel free to jump in.
So was Job born on leap year?
Yeah, that's what it's seeming to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, he says yes. So
So
yeah, that's a good verse. Awesome. I'll
born
have
on
to.
a leap year, but conceived on the day at a time?
That would
Okay.
account for the 2 days, right?
You know, I'm wondering if there's
Yeah,
something
yeah.
to that with the seasons being like, what is it, 185 days or whatever it was. I wonder if, like, that other day goes, I don't know, somewhere else. Isn't, like, the summer season longest?
The summer solstice, yeah.
Um,
Longest day of the year.
yeah, I believe so.
No, I mean, like, the summer to the fall is 93 days or 92 days. It's something like that.
Yeah.
So wait, if he was conceived on the summer solstice, that would be a day that's not counted, right?
The
Well, I
intercalary
don't
day?
mean, like,
The
on the summer solstice specifically, but I'm just saying within that season.
Right, because that would make 9 months.
Interesting.
Just something to ponder.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely something to look into more.
Now, when each season changes, the seasonal intercalary day is going to fall on, let's see, on the 3rd day, because then the next day is going to fall on that fourth day of the week going
Yeah,
into each season. That's what it's going to do.
correct. Yes.
So yeah, you will have your seasonal intercalary day, and then the first day of the next month is always going to be on, again, I'm just going to use a Gregorian term, Wednesday. Okay, so the middle of the week, the fourth
Yeah,
day of the week. And that's going to do that every single time you have that interchange of seasons.
precisely. Exactly.
Like a repeat of the first of the year.
It's all in patterns. It's pretty amazing, actually. They always land on the same times at the same cycles, the same days, versus other people who they have shifting dates and, shifting this, shifting that. Like, it just, that's like a mixing and it doesn't work.
Well, and people say that the Gregorian calendar is a solar calendar, but it's not. It's a solely lunar calendar.
Yeah, exactly. It's, lunisolar, solar, lunar.
How is that?
What?
How is it solar and lunar?
The Gregorian?
Yeah,
Because they use the moon for months too.
they do.
They do.
Well,
Yeah,
it's how they get their Easter.
They track. So the Gregorian, Pope Gregory is the one that established it. Okay, so in the Catholic system, they go by the moon to determine their feasts. Okay, so the moon is intercalated with their calendar. It's not just solar, it's also lunisolar.
Yes, like Easter is the first full moon, the
After
Sunday following a full moon after the
the
equinox.
equinox, yeah, which
Right.
is why
yeah,
it's so
yeah.
late. It's going to be extremely late this year, because their full moon isn't going to there's almost an entire month that they're celebrating Easter in between when we celebrate Pesach. So we're going to be celebrating Pesach almost 20 to 25 days before they're going to be celebrating Easter, because the full moon isn't going to fall this year until later.
Which is why the Jewish calendar and the sliver moon followers will end up keeping Easter and Passover on the same dates at times.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, the Gregorian calendar, whoever wants to, again, those that want to defend it, they're also defending a lunisolar calendar, because it's not just solar.
Right, because they have to have the moon in it because they operate on feminine energy.
Correct. Yep.
The female
Yeah.
frequency, like Solomon's temple, female frequency, the world running right now, female frequency.
Yep.
Which is why everyone's basing everything on the moon, because it's the frequency.
Yeah.
And they don't want to get off it. It's unfortunate.
Which I would love to do a deep dive into the moon and to its purpose. But I truly believe we are in the time where the moon disobeys.
And
Yeah, I
does
would
not come in
agree.
her season.
Correct, because our
Yeah.
seasons are all messed up anyway. I mean, just a few
Yep.
weeks ago, we had tree budding, and now we're supposed to have negative some degree weather. So, I mean, it's all over the board.
Yeah, and that's how, people are getting snow in July or heat waves in December. Plants and flowers and such blooming in the winter when they shouldn't be. It's clearly off.
Yeah, it's crazy how there was like a couple nice days in between like the coldest days. It's been crazy. So all over the
Yeah.
place, and now we're getting snow that's in clumps. Like, is this even real?
Right. I mean, in
Yeah.
Enoch 80 tells us that the moon in the final days will be inconsistent. And the last time, I think it was last Sabbath, when I was listening, I think Marissa had shown where the moon was all over the place for the head of the year, like it was inconsistent.
Yeah. Yeah, we're still working on figuring the moon out and exactly what it should be for, but we know for sure it's not for months, 100%. And it is very inconsistent, but
And did the priests use it?
yeah, and that's
No.
the thing too. Is moon cycles are not originally found in the original text, but only the word dukkha. And we're working to figure all this out, trying to see what's really going on. It's really a deep rabbit hole, and it's tough because there's
So
not a whole lot of information.
in the Paleo Hebrew, when it's talking about the day and the night, the word for I'm sorry, my children. The word for day has the beginning of YAHUAH in it. It's like Yahum or something like that. It's not just Yum like we know now, the mixed version of the Hebrew. It has the beginning
Yeah.
sound of Yahuwah. But then for night, it gives it Lilith. It gives it the name of Lilith.
Ooh, weird.
So when we follow the moon and its feminine energy, I can't help but feel like we're following the night, we're following Lilith, because we are children of the day, we are children of the light, and we follow the sun, which is masculine, and look in our own homes, our husbands lead. And so many women, or just people in general, get so confused, in my opinion, that, oh, a woman submits to her husband, she's got to bow down to her husband. But aren't we all representation of the bride of Messiah? So when we submit ourselves, we're giving up that feminine energy for his masculinity, for his leadership. And so
For
to
his
follow the moon, which is feminine, I'm not following any woman. I'm sorry. I'm going to follow my head covering, and the sun is what I'm, not the sun, the son. If I'm the
Yeah.
bride, I'm submitting
and
myself and my understanding to him.
now in Enoch, it says that there are two names for the moon, right? And then there are like four names for the sun, given like
The
pointed to the
opposite.
sun.
4 names
Oh,
for the moon and 2 for the sun.
thank you. Okay. I wonder why that is. Like, I wonder what's the point in that?
Yeah, it is pretty interesting.
Maybe it has something to do with their courses. Like you said, two names for the sun. Maybe there's a name for the sun that brings in the warm seasons, and then a name for the sun that brings in the cold seasons. Just a thought.
So if there's four names for
Yeah.
the moon and there's four seasons, could that be
Yeah.
maybe
Interesting.
the correlation?
Yeah, maybe. That's just where my brain went. Being two for the sun, there's two equinoxes that it pivots, and then the four seasons for the moon. Just
I'm
maybe.
wondering maybe if we could take a look at the Hebrew words, the word pictures of the names, and that might tell us something.
Because you have four full moons throughout the year that are different colors. Like you have the blue moon, the red moon, the harvest moon is like an orange, or one's pink. I was just looking these up the other day, but I think there's four colors. So
And then
maybe
there's
it's four.
well, yes, and then there's one that's like so white it's like translucent, like crystal.
Right.
Very interesting. Yeah.
But again, that's all by observation, which is key to this calendar, to
Yeah.
guard and to observe.
I
And then
agree.
we also have Ben Sirach, 43, and it's really interesting. Jeremy took it from Sepharia, the actual Hebrew, and he put it in a translator, and it translates like this: "For the greatest of YAHUAH does, and his words, his nights shall prevail. And also the moon, the times of return, the government of the end, and the sign of the world in them, the time and times of law, and the object of Esau in its time, new in its newness, it is renewed. What is terrible in its transformation?"
Yeah, pretty interesting. Because a lot of people want to say, oh, well, see, the moon's used for Sabbath. Well, it's technically not.
Lee, definitely come into the chat, open your mic, and talk. I'm seeing it that you're talking in the chat, but definitely chime in.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, cool.
How you
Oh, I
doing?
just thought, good. Anyone have any thoughts about Ben Sirach?
That I really need to read it.
I found this interesting. This morning, Seth was reading the Apocalypse of Elijah, or the Revelation of Elijah. And it says in chapter 1, verse 4, "For many times the devil desired not to let the sun rise above the earth, and not to let the earth yield its fruits, since he desires to consume men like fire, which rages in stubble, and he desires to swallow them up like water." And so if he desires that, and he controls the time and seasons at this point, that just really jumped out at me,
Oof.
because I have not read that yet. And when he read that, it really was like, oh my gosh, there's the proof. He does desire to control the calendar, the times, the
I think that
seasons.
we've got
also in the Ascension of Isaiah, it talks about Hasatan getting control of the sun and the moon in the end days.
Yeah, I remember I told you about that.
Yeah.
Have
Yeah,
y'all
wow.
noticed the 12 patriarchs, how it says Levi takes a hold of the sun and Judah takes hold of the moon?
Interesting, yeah.
Which book of the Patriarchs is that one?
Oh, man, I'm trying to think. I think it's in the book of Levi, in the 12 patriarchs under Levi.
Okay.
Or it might be under Judah. I'm not.
Levi or Judith. Okay.
Yeah. It says Levi takes a hold of the sun and Judah took hold of the moon. And that's what we see.
Yeah. Because they're following Babylon.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely some good points.
I mean, I definitely don't want to discredit that the moon has purpose. Like, it let us know when night is. And someone had shared about the planting season and the benefits of planting when the moon is its fullest. But for our months, I'm not seeing it in scripture.
Well, if you've ever taken a camera out and set it up on a tripod and mark your 3 legs, so you can put it back on the position as when the moon sets and the sun sets, which will be 2 opposite days. If you do that on the equinox, you'll see it land in the 4th gate every time in the same position. The moon will land with the sun.
So there's another confirmation with the scripture. Yeah.
Every time.
Every time. That's awesome.
Every year.
Now, this isn't scriptural, but reading up a lot about the parasites and everything. Every single person that I've come across that is suggesting that people get, the parasites cleansed out of their body, they say to do it a couple days before the full moon, because that's when they're most active. Like, I know that sounds really gross, but I don't know. The full moon is when
Yes,
they're most active.
I have heard that. I
Interesting.
believe that is true. Almost like they're drawn out of your body to the moon.
Yeah.
And how wonky people get during these times.
Right. Like the werewolf howls at the full moon.
Well, the moon affects the ebb and flow of the ocean as well.
The tide, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I watched a video about someone trying to debunk that. I'm not positive about it, but I do remember that. But yeah.
Yeah, interesting stuff. And then, continuing here in Psalms, and it's going to be 19, verses 1 through 9. And this is going to be talking about the sun and the moon and the stars speaking, have no voice. And it's what's showing us the yearly markers. And so the Shamaim are proclaiming the esteem of El, and the expanse is declaring the work of his hands. Day to day pours forth speech, and night to night reveals knowledge. There is no speech, and there are words. Their voice is not heard. So talking about the heavenly markers, the luminaries. And their line has gone throughout all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. So the line again, day 4. In them he put up a tent for the sun, and it's like a bridegroom coming out of his room. So divider day each year, a tent for the sun. It rejoices like a strong man to run the path. It's rising from one end of the Shamayim, and its circuit to the other end, and not is hidden from its heat. The Torah of YAHUAH is perfect, bringing back the being. The witness of YAHUAH is trustworthy, making wise the simple. The orders of YAHUAH are straight, the straight line again, rejoicing the heart. The command of YAHUAH is clear, enlightening the eyes, and the reverence of YAHUAH is clean, standing forever. The right rulings of YAHUAH are true. They are righteous all together. And then Ezekiel.
Anybody want to say anything about that?
Yeah.
If y'all have ever looked at the round tabernacle from Andy Hoy,
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Matter of fact, I talked to him yesterday, but yeah, if you take that center beam that's got all the sockets to the pivotal part, that's that straight line too that he's talking about. Besides the other eight.
Exactly.
Yeah. Pretty interesting.
It's alluded to all over scriptures.
Yes.
It's pretty interesting.
Round tabernacle, round priestly garment, circular calendar, three witnesses, and on and on.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. The tabernacle was round as well.
Yes, me too. And the priestly garment, it was round too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
The priestly garment was also round?
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. It's not depicted like you see it today. Neither is the temple, which is box shape. That's false too. But yeah, they would take that picture I uploaded, which is, you know, the calendar above your head, mapped out for you. Even in the quadrants and the web and the weave. If you was to put that over the top of your head, it would be a priestly garment.
Oh.
So the high priest was the one that wore that. So
along with the breastplate of all the stones for each tribe.
Yes, and I think it was circular too.
You think that was also circular?
Yep, to the north, south, east, and west, just like the calendar. You bet.
Okay. So, I wonder. So, somebody also said that. Gosh, I want to say it was Jeremy, or somebody posted something. I think this was an earlier Sabbath meeting. But it showed like the 12 tribes. Like I'm pretty sure Levi and Judah were like toward the east, and then all the other tribes like around them in a certain order.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if the breastplate was also set up like that, like you said, maybe circular with all the stones set up in the way that they were set up in the camp.
I think the Ark of the Covenant was round too.
Okay, now that's interesting.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yep. You'll notice that all those dimensions and stuff in the that he's giving in Exodus 28, as far as the garments and how, or the tabernacle and how it's set up, all those dimensions, it fits the calendar. The tabernacle numbers fits the calendar numbers, and also the priestly garments.
That's amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
Everything that I feel the Most High has ever revealed to me has been in circles.
Yes. It's just amazing if you've ever watched any of the Indian stuff from the Navajos, how they built that hogan, which is a hog, which is circular, which is a feast. They're doing stuff that they don't even know they're doing, but they're doing it because it's been passed down from generation to generation. It's just blows me away. And how they take their sacrifices out, and when they're doing their festivals, they're taking it outside the camp. They're doing it. They just don't know what they're doing.
Right. They just started following the moon, like it says in Jubilees. Other than that, they do 7 feasts a year.
Yeah. It's interesting. They've lost a lot of things too. So
Now, has anybody heard of the theory that the constellations in the sky, we've got the Greek indoctrination of those signs, but somewhere somebody pointed out that they're actually Hebrew letters. The constellations are.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or they put it backwards, and then
correct. Yes, they did.
Yeah.
Yes,
like
but they're actually Sorry,
it's
go
like
ahead.
When it talks about his name, they put that in there backwards too.
Yeah, so that we can't, so that we're confused and not find right.
We're reading it right to left, but really it's left to right. There's a lot of things.
I know.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Definitely.
Can I just also interject with the tabernacle tabernacle shape? I do believe it is round, but then there's in scripture that says there's 6 posts put up at the rear. I'm wondering if that is in regards to the gates. They know where the sun is and which gate. Sorry, I've been walking. I'm a bit puffed. Does anyone know the scripture?
You were breaking up there a little bit, sister. What was the question again? Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Hang on. Can you hear me still?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. There's a scripture that says to put six posts at the rear of the temple, the rear of the tabernacle. I do believe that it's a round tabernacle, but I don't know how that 6 posts would fit into that. But the thought of 6 posts being at the back, would that be about the sun's gates? There's gates that the sun comes through, and there's 6 of those, is there?
Are you familiar with Andy Hoy's site?
Oh, I'm not good with names.
Project 314.
Oh, back from Rob Skeeber spoke about it?
Yes, but he does have a site called Project 314.
Yeah.
It's interesting how 314 is pi, and you take the calendar and it's cut in pi. But when you come to Shavuot on the 15th, that pi is there for a reason. That 314 diameter that it gives. But when you come to Shavuot, it's almost a sign before Shavuot, the pi signal.
Isn't pi also measured by cubits?
Yes.
Yep.
There you go. Yep.
Up on screen here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so does anyone know about the 6 posts at the rear scripture?
I could look it up real quick.
I was gonna say I'm trying to find it right now.
Is there 6 posts in the front as well?
4,
I never recall it saying at the back.
4 it's like the vestibule, like an entryway, like where the bronze laver was.
Okay, so 4 in the front and 6 in the back.
Mm-hmm.
The entrance would face east, though, correct?
I'm sorry, it's really noisy here. Could you ask that again?
Exodus 36:27, Claire said. 6 posts.
I see it here. It's in Exodus 36:27.
Yeah.
He made 6 frames for the rear of the tabernacle to the west side, 2 for the back corners. Now, here we got in Exodus 26:22 and 23. He made 6 frames for the rear of the tabernacle to the west side.
Yeah. So I thought it might have been something regarding for them to know for the sun. They could, you know how they can see when the equinox is coming through that front eastern gate. When they've got those 6 posts at the rear somewhere, they know where they are within the year as well. I don't know. It's just a...
Oh, I see what you're saying, like a sundial.
Yeah.
When the sun comes through, you would see it hit this post or that post, and they would know, like the gates of the sun that it
Yeah.
goes through. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I see what you're saying.
I just thought I would
Yeah,
interject
interesting.
because it came on my mind and I don't normally talk, so I would just bring that up.
Yeah, thank you, sister. All right, so we'll continue here in Ezekiel 43, 1 through 5. So, and he led me to the gate facing east, and see, the esteem of Elohim of Israel came from the way of the east. And his voice was like the sound of many waters, and the earth shone from his esteem. And it was like the appearance of the vision which I saw, like the vision which I saw when he came to destroy the city. And the visions were like the vision which I saw by the river Kibar. And I fell on my face, and the esteem of YAHUAH came into the house by way of the gate facing east. And the Ruach took me up, and brought me into the inner courtyard. And see, the esteem of YAHUAH filled the house. So this is showing the temple tracking the equinox. Because right there on day 4, when the equinox happens, this is when that straight shot of sunbeam is going to shine directly in, just like we see right here. Day 4 is shining directly in, coming in from the courtyard, and it, boom, lands right there, shines directly on the Holy of Holies, lighting everything up, the esteem of YAHUAH.
Why would we want to move the esteem of Yahuwah? Why?
Exactly.
Right there, you're moving his esteem to whatever Wednesday you want to get a Saturday Sabbath. That is lunacy.
So what's
Yeah.
interesting is the tabernacle, if it was round on the day of the equinox, with it shining in something round, it would have literally be a portrayal of the sun going through the fourth great gate.
Shining through the
Wait, repeat.
tabernacle.
Shining through the
Yeah.
tabernacle.
Right. Yes, exactly.
Like it lights up the entire thing. Like I picture like a big dome.
Yeah.
And the sun shining through on a straight line, lighting up the entire place just like the sun does on the
Reflecting off all that gold.
Yeah.
And all those stones, and most likely just I guess putting the stars into the dome.
Yeah.
They could see what Yah sees.
Yeah. And it's literally a representation of what's happening in the heavenly realm with the sun going through the fourth great gate, marking the first of that year.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So if anybody wants to say, oh, there is no equinox, well, here it is.
And you don't get that on the equal lux. You get that on the day of the equinox.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, because the equal lux is just the day of that dividing. So it's not gonna be is that
It
the
was like a sign telling them to look. It's coming. I mean, Moses would have had to have had a sign to know when to set up the tabernacle and have everything ready.
So that was the equal day and equal night, though, right? The equal lux.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which they would have tracked too on a sundial, right?
Yeah, the Qumran
Would that be on
sundial.
a Sunday?
Sorry.
Good question.
I believe that there's sundials that can keep track of the time of day. but we know day is 24 hours, but Enoch says there's 18.
Parts.
I forget the
Parts.
word
He
that he
said
uses.
parts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
18 parts. And he divides it. The sun has this many parts during this time of the year and this many parts of night. And so if they had the sundial just right, I think you would be able to see time just like we can. Down where we go to this little beach here in Indiana, they have a huge sundial on the beach, and you can tell what time it is on the concrete.
So again, sorry, I'm just trying to understand. So the equal lux, which is the first day of creation week, he literally like perfectly split the time up, right? Like literally cut it in
Yeah,
half equally,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Okay. And then the equinox is the straight line. So not the equal day and equal night, but it's the straight line shadow of the sun coming through the fourth great gate.
Yeah, precisely.
Okay.
You got it. Which, speaking about that, here in Enoch 72, verse 4 through 6, so it's going to show the sun, which is entering the portal of heaven, then it shines in heaven. And then in the same way, it's going to rise in the great portal, the fourth portal. So there's two portals, one in heaven, which is the yearly divider, and the other is the great fourth portal. So, so Enoch 72, 4 through 6, and first there goes forth the great light named the sun, and its circumference is like the circumference of the Shamayim, and he's quite filled with the illuminating and heating fire. The chariot on which he ascends, the winds drive, and the sun goes down from the Shamayim and returns through the north in order to reach the east. And it is so guided that he comes into that portal and shines in the face of the Shamayim. So he's going to this gate, he's coming into the gate or the portal, and he's shining in the face of heaven. And then in this way, he rises in the first month in the great portal, which is the fourth. So in the same way that he came into the gate of the face of heaven, he's literally coming into the first month as well. It's going to be the equinox or day 4 marker as well. So this is showing the two portals. The sun comes and rises out of it in the same exact way. So two portals, one in heaven for the yearly divider, the other is a great fourth portal.
So so it goes through two portals?
Yeah,
Or is
so
shining through directly. I'm sorry, I'm trying to picture that in my head, and I'm probably not getting a good representation of it in my head, but like it's like a direct line. Well, yeah, it would be that straight line.
yeah.
So
So
the
verse
portals are
5
like
really,
connected.
yeah, pretty much. So it's talking about the chariot where he comes from, or his path. The wind's driving it. The sun goes down from the Shamayim and returns through the north in order to reach the east. So right here he's describing he's got to go through the north to come back to the east. So
Oh.
in the yearly cycle, it's coming from the west, going to the north, which it's describing, and it coming to the east. And it's so guided that he comes to that portal, which is in the north, and shines in the face of heaven, or Shamayim. So he's coming into this northern portal, shining in the face of heaven. And then in this way, he rises in the first month in the great portal, which is the fourth. So there's this portal, they're just saying it's just a regular portal over here. And it's the one in the north. were shining in the face of heaven. And then the same way it came into this portal, he's going to come into the great fourth portal, which, it's specified as that, the great portal, which is the fourth. So this is talking about, verse 5 here is describing this divider day.
Okay, I'm not
where it's
trying
shining in the face of heaven.
I'm not trying to reach or anything. But my mind was reeling after Wednesday. And so I don't know if I was just having a dream or if my mind was just like in like this, just state of like, I just felt like I was like going in circles. But I had a dream, and in my dream, um, I just kept seeing like these circles that were like connecting with like another circle. And I told my mom about it and how, so I used to be a huge movie buff. And I was telling her that in my dream, it kind of seemed like, so in the Pirates of the Caribbean movie, there's this map and there's these circles within circles. And when you move one set of circle and you move another, when at a certain point they come together, they make a whole picture. And then I was thinking about the flat earth model and then the Enoch calendar and the 4 lines that go directly to the middle, which I guess what we would consider north. And so when you're talking about the east portal, which is the 4th, and you said it, and it goes to the north. So like, it's like that straight line. So for the first of the year, it's going to go, it's going to go straight into the middle. And then during the next season, it's going to be another straight line and it goes also straight north. And so like, I know it sounds like I'm babbling, but I'm just trying to explain. So again, when we think about Yah's calendar and his appointed times, I told my mom, I was like, it almost seems like, by not following his calendar, we're missing these appointed times, these days of meeting. And I believe that there's something that is opened within each of those times. And, whether it's filled with blessings or something upon you, but like if they're celebrating in heaven because you're doing it on the same day and it's, on earth as it is in heaven, um, that's how, again, you get marked because that it's opened and you're doing it with them at the same time. So again, like, I'm not trying to sound new age or anything, but like if there are portals that are being opened on these days where you like you said, it goes through the north and then through the great gate and that straight line. Sorry, does anybody else understand what I'm trying to say? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think I understand.
It just sounds like that there's something that's opened each time one of these things are taking place.
Yeah, I think actually, in the following verses, he talks about the great winds and the things that'll open up as the sun traverses through. Yeah, he talks about the 12 windows, I believe it is.
So there's a difference between windows and gates, though.
Yeah, because he describes them separately. Let me actually try to pull it up here. Okay, I think, yeah, it's going to be Enoch 72 here. Let me. So verse 3 is about the 6 different portals or the gates. And then, where does it talk about it? Oh, so verse 7. So in that fourth portal from which the sun rises in the first month are 12 window openings, from which proceedeth flame when they are opened in their season. So it's talking about these 12 openings, these window openings as well. And they're each opened in their season. When the sun rises in the Shamayim, he comes forth through the fourth portal 30 mornings in succession, and goes down exactly in the fourth portal in the west of the Shamayim. So there's these windows that also open up as the sun is traversing through its course. Let me see if I can. And here's kind of a good picture. So these are going to be the gates or the portals. So this one up here is going to be, it even actually says that right here, which is interesting. One of the 6 gates is, one of them is in heaven, and that's going to be the one that's not counted, which is the verse we just read in Enoch 72 there. Excuse me. But these are basically going to be all, so these red lines are the extent of the sun's course. Like it's going to travel through these all the year, come to here, and then it's going to come back. And the middle one right here is going to be the equator, and this is going to be where we get the equinox, or that straight line shadow, or straight line sunbeam. Does that
Odd
make a
that
little bit more?
it's odd that
Oh,
it's straight though, on because when we're looking at it, it's circular, but if it's shining through the north, then that would essentially be straight if you just connect it in the middle there, right?
yeah,
Because
exactly.
north is just middle. I mean, again, north, you think of a ball and you think it's like on the top of the globe, but really it's the navel of the earth, which Jubilees also points out that the navel of the earth is where Mount Zion is.
Yeah,
Also, the fourth gate is the only time your shadow will become a straight line. So both fall and spring equinox, when it comes through that fourth gate, your shadow for the day will be a straight line when you track it.
2 times out of the year.
Correct. The rest of the time it curves.
yeah, exactly.
And then,
Which then always makes me think, enter the gate, for it is narrow. Well, you have to enter into that fourth gate at that right time to keep Passover and to keep the Sabbath.
and in gematria, 4 equals door.
Yeah,
And we can't allow a foot to block our door.
exactly.
So again, I'm sorry. Essentially, the straight line is that pointing toward Mount Zion, because Mount Zion is also this is also in Jubilees, where it says that that's the mountain that's going to cleanse the entire earth from
Yeah,
all its sin.
I believe that. I believe it's going to be right there in the center.
Which a lot of people allude to that there's like a magnetic, like all compasses point north, that there's like some kind of like magnetic like rock. And then we've got our major companies like BlackRock that own basically everything.
Hi, this is Claire's husband, Tim. Doesn't Yahuwah sit on his throne above the center of the earth as well?
Yeah.
I believe so, yes. I also, the more I dig into this, I truly do believe that is where the saints are, especially being the 144,000 does translate to LF, and Satan mocks it by saying that's where Santa lives with his elves. And no one's allowed to go there. And we have the hem of his garment, as they call the northern lights, that radiate from this area, and all compasses, everything pulls to that energy that is there, and they don't need the sun or the moon because they have Yahusha.
Yeah, exactly. Let me show you a picture here real quick.
I mean, nobody can go there, right? I mean, because if you try to look at it on maps, it's completely like they completely white it out. They don't want anybody seeing it.
So
Yeah,
in
so
Ezekiel, it says that Jerusalem is in the center of all the nations. Well, the Jerusalem that we have right now is not the center of all the nations. But if you suck all the land back together,
You mean the continents?
yes,
Okay, like and put it
and you
together like
pull it back in, it says, like where the garden is, where Yah's preserved peace is a large mountain that has 4 rivers that run through it that feeds all the nations.
yeah, so if you can see on screen here, this is going to be quote unquote the North Pole, where there's this giant black rock mountain that's going to be here. And there's going to be these 4 land masses that surround it. And, here's Greenland, Europe, Russia, Asia, Canada, and the US. And if you look on all the maps, this is all going to be like just blocked out. They say there's nothing here. There's just water,
well, and he
But
did cause the floodwaters to go upon Eden when the original flood did happen, so it would have separated that land from the other continents.
yeah, exactly.
And did he not freeze it? Did he not freeze it and cover it with ice so that no one could find it?
Yeah, that as well.
And I'm currently walking out the fact that maybe when the fervent heat came down from heaven and the mountains moved in the land, that maybe when the 7th vial was poured out, the continental drift, as we're told in history, happened.
I'm sorry, that's after the millennial or before?
That is before the millennial reign, during the tribulation, when the massive earthquakes hit that shook all 4 corners of the earth. And it talks about the islands being moved from their place and the mountains being moved and the fervent heat that would melt the land. I'm currently walking out possibly that being the continental drift that we are told and happened, how we're slowly drifting apart, all the continents are, and eventually San Francisco will touch Tokyo.
Weird.
Is what scientists say, over who knows their concept of time.
So you don't think the continents maybe split during the flood? You think it could have happened before the millennial reign?
It's possible both, but yeah, that's what Charlie had presented something to me, and what was really weird is she presented this to me And it was something that was already on my mind that I had only mentioned to my husband once in like small talk. I never even really talked about it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
it seems
because,
like, oh,
sorry, go
it seems
ahead.
like it seems like it would take a huge earthquake to cause, the splitting that would cause the continental drift. I wasn't even aware of that until recently, but it kind of makes sense. Of
Yeah,
course, we
I
don't
think so
know
too.
completely, but
Right.
people say, well, the millennial reign couldn't have happened because there hasn't been the tribulation yet. But there has been so much catastrophic things that have occurred, but of course we never knew about it because our history has been obliterated.
Well, our history, yeah, has been essentially rewritten just
Yeah,
within the last 500 years, is
yeah.
about as
And
far as we
so,
can go back.
yeah, so we have people are living in an alternate reality in their minds.
So whenever I was searching the calendar, I had to ask, where are we on time? Where are we on your timeline? Because I kind of felt like a crazy person, feeling like I needed to prepare, but what if it wasn't our generation, that was going to see the anti-Messiah and all this stuff. And when he literally set sail to the ship on being post-millennial reign, when we circled back to the calendar just a few months ago, it was just like it all clicked. Everything we know has been deception, even down to our days of the week. So to think that Saturday was preserved and the Sabbath was never hidden, like it says over and over through the scriptures. Not me personally, but if I could just get people to see, again, not me, where we are on the timeline, so many people could wake up to the fact that Saturday is a huge deception.
Right.
But that's not for me we can just plant the seeds. I just want to, scream sometimes and be like, just wake up. It's right here in front of our face.
I mean, yeah, the first conversation that we all had together on Telegram, Katrina had just briefly put in something about, being post-millennial, and I was like, wait, what? And yeah, like you said, it kind of put in perspective for me the trueness of Saturday or Sabbath not being on the Gregorian Saturday.
Right, because that's going to be the biggest blinder for anyone coming to the calendar. You've got many people that believe the Zadok calendar is correct. They woke up in masses. I was one of them that just woke up, oh my gosh, this is it. This is the preserved calendar of Yah. But when we look at the signs of the heaven, and you have the equilux, you have the equinox, you have the barley ripe in the heavens, everything telling us count now, start now. This is the counting of your days, go. And we want to adjust it to preserve our Saturday Sabbath. It was a huge red flag because it was like, wait a minute, we are in a time of utter deception where all four corners of the earth think we're on a spinning ball. What would make me think, or anyone think, that these signs would come in and we have to adjust for Yah's time? He's showing us in the heavens. He preserved it right there.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
all you have to do is start counting from there.
Yep.
And you'll show up to all the appointed times on time because they're stationary, like the earth. His appointed times are fixed, stationary times, just like his Sabbaths, and it
And his
doesn't move.
seasons. Yeah.
Right.
And
They don't
yeah.
move. They come in like clockwork.
Yeah. And in perfect order too.
Absolutely. And nothing touches another. You don't have a Sabbath on a high Sabbath. Nothing touches. It's all perfect.
Yeah, it is. Well, and yeah, you don't have a detestable day on a holy day, for sure.
Exactly.
And that's another thing Covenant Calendar wanted to say. They wanted to put the Passover on a Shabbat. And I'm like, no,
Well,
you can't do that.
they were trying to put three different festivals on the Sabbath. It was because they were saying, oh, Passover happens preparation day of the Sabbath day, weekly Sabbath day. And then they were saying unleavened bread, the weekly Sabbath, and the wave sheaf all started on that same Sabbath day. And then they were going through like, well, which one's more important than the other? And like putting one above the other, basically, when, they're all very important. Nowhere does it say that they all land on the same days. Like they're separate for a reason, because they all need to be observed equally. Like they're all of equal importance, especially the weekly Sabbath, which is literally every single week. It's one of the most important, So we can't be having just a bunch of high Sabbaths and so forth on the same exact day. It
Right,
just
because
does
we have
not work.
different things we can do. There's things I can do on a high Sabbath that I can't do on a Sabbath.
Yeah, that as well. So again, there's a division that would be mixing. If we're just mixing everything all under the same day, it's a mixing. And Yahuwah has clear divisions and separations of things. And this is the theme throughout all of Scriptures.
Right, he
Thank you.
divides.
Yeah.
He came and divided the goat. He'll divide the goats from the sheep at the end.
Precisely. Yeah, a lot of people, they don't understand this, and they just, they want to go off their own understanding and thinking. They want to toss out the books that explain exactly how to do things. They want to toss them out because, it's not going to fit their own understanding. And, especially with the books of Jubilees and Enoch, many want to toss these books out because, one, it proves their moon calendar is wrong, or it proves whatever other calendar they're following wrong. They don't want to accept them because they don't want to accept the harsh reality. These books are absolutely inspired, and they're just parroting men who want to discredit them in place of their moon calendar. That's literally the base of it right there.
And I'm
Well,
sure everybody in this group that has the understanding of how to start counting their days can say this is not their own understanding, that they were given understanding by the Father, because this is not my understanding at all.
Absolutely.
I think it's amazing, like how the more you look into it, the more proof and the more evidence you find to it.
Yeah,
You can't
absolutely.
disprove it. You can't disprove it
yeah,
at this point.
like, yeah, no, because like, why would there be a detestable day? If days were important, then why did he set apart one day and other days? And then why are there certain days that are detestable and not to be mixed in with the holy days?
Absolutely.
And I think every day that is mentioned is important and in its place, because we're coming back to Noah again. The 17th day of the second month is obviously an important day. And for it to fall just any day of the week can't be right, and particularly if it falls on a Sabbath, as we're saying, these things can't happen on a Sabbath. So I think it's very important that we've discovered that it's the day after the Sabbath.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that a British accent?
It is. Do you like it?
We're in London.
Yeah.
I was born
I can't change my name on here to Claire and Tim's because it's it's my profile, but Claire and Tim, yeah.
Oh, we love all the accents here.
And remember when we were talking Adrian, you remember when we were talking about Messiah and that how his birth could have been correlated with Isaac's?
Yes.
Okay, so in Jubilees, it says, and in the middle of the 6th month, Elohim visited Sarah and did unto her as he had spoken, and she conceived, and she bare a son in the 3rd month, and in the middle of that month, at the time at which Elohim had spoken to Abraham on the festival of first fruits of the harvest, Isaac was born. So he visited her in the 6th month, and that's when she conceived.
And that's when
Just
Mary
like
was visited.
Messiah had visited. Yes. Yep.
Yes, when
Absolutely.
Mary in the 6th month.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, to me, again, that it was just more confirmation. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. It's why coming together is important.
Absolutely. Which I'm not going to hijack. Jeremy, you finish what you need. There's something I had presented to Jeremy and Katrina, and I'm feeling it really heavy to just present it to the group as a big study. But
Definitely.
I don't want to interrupt what Jeremy's doing right now. So remind me at the end.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, interruptions are good. He is putting out all these things, all these verses, but we still could come in and talk about each and every verse and what someone gets from it, what the Ruach is telling them, just as the Ruach leads, just follow, participate, because I love it. And he does too. To him, all the glory.
Yeah, amen. Yeah, so let me continue here. And then, so we have 4Q320, which is going to be found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. It's one of the Mishmarot scrolls. And it's talking about, so this is showing that the equinox is going to be day 4. So to display itself from the east and shine in the center of the sky at the base of the vault from evening to morning on the 4th day of the week, the sons of Gamul, in the 1st month of the 1st year. So again, it's going to be fragmented out, but to clarify it more, it's going to be talking about the sun, which rises due east and shines at the celestial equator on the horizon at dawn, as night becomes morning, on day 4 Gamul, in the 1st month of the 1st year. This is going to go along with Exodus 27:13, the east side of the courtyard towards the sunrise, to be 50 cubits wide. Exodus 38:13, and the east side towards the sunrise is to be 50 cubits long. So both of these are also showing the temple and the tabernacle are tracking, again, the equinox, the straight line method. And then here also in James 1:16 through 17, again, the heavenly markers are alluded to with the straight line, or the shadow not turning. So do not go astray, my beloved brothers. Every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no change or shadow of turning. Now, this last verse can be read slightly differently in different versions. But this is talking about how the shadow it's not going to bend, which is talking about, the straight line method again. And then, does anybody have any questions? so far with these few verses that we've gone through?
Makes me think of that, do not stray to the right or to the left. Keep on that straight path.
Yeah, the straight path, the straight and narrow.
Yeah, it's funny that you said that because I was reading the Exodus again on repeat. I swear, it's all I read. When Moses put his staff in and the water separated, it says not to go to the left or the right because they'd walk into water, to stay on the straight path. That's what that reminded me of too.
Yeah.
And notice how,
That he set for them with his staff.
say that again?
Sorry, go ahead.
Miranda, say that one again?
What? That he had set that forth with his staff?
Yeah.
That's it.
And notice how in these verses it doesn't say to move the equinox day. It's the fourth.
Yep. It's the fourth.
There's no instructions to move it.
We're going to see that more in some more verses here as we go through, continue going through. We don't have too many more left. But yeah, it's always talking about the straight lines, and the fourth day is when these things are going to happen, and so forth. And so Enoch 72:32. So this is going to be talking about the equilux, which is equal day and night, which is the divider day that's going to happen each season. So a lot of people, they get this verse confused with the equinox. This isn't the case. There's a lot of people that say, oh, Enoch doesn't know what an equilux was. Well, he's describing the very definition of what an equilux is, which is equal day and equal night. There's a lot of people that want to debate this specific verse here, but when you go in, the equinox is not exactly equal day and equal night. It's the straight line shadow marker. This is going to be the divider day marker. So let me kind of share on the calendar here a visual so we can kind of see a little bit better. But if you notice, so this is going to be March 16th, which is going to be equal day and equal night in Israel. Israel is one of Yahuwah's chosen places that his name will always dwell. Just because it is defiled at the moment does not change that fact. This is always going to happen March 16th in Israel. So as you can see, month 12, we're going to have this last Sabbath of the year, which is occurring on the 15th of March. Then we get 16th of March, which is this divider day, the yearly divider day. Then after this yearly divider day, just like what Enoch is saying, we're going to have day one. So day 364, day one. Boom, right here. Then we come on to day 4, which is going to be the equinox. So we can also show this with the signs and markers in the stars as well.
Why do you think they observe that in Israel?
It's where Yahuwah puts his name. That's the exact date
Do
that it
the
lines up.
do the
So go ahead.
Jews do they
I don't even
do
think they consider this date.
they do they observe that?
No, I don't believe they do. They observe their new moons. So this does occur, March 16th in Israel. And if you look on the picture here, you know, March 16th, the date at the top, got Ursa Minor lining up right there with Polaris. Boom, marker in the heavens to back that up as well. And like what I was kind of explaining earlier was the Qumran sundial can also be tracking the equinoxes because of this little marker here. You know, it's the marker with the equal thing on both sides, which is just slightly before the equinox marker, which is here. So this can also be tracking the equilux, which is something we're still working on verifying, as the spring equilux has not happened yet. So all right. So where were we? Enoch 74, 11 through 12. So this is going to show the excess days of the sun and the stars, which is going to be 1.2 days every single year. 6 divided by 5 is 1.2. It's also showing the sun and the stars bring in the years and not the moon. There's got to be no moon in this verse. Although some translations, they want to translate it as moon, which we went over last time. It's not going to fit. The moon is not going to fit there. Why? Because all the verses around this were just speaking how the moon's going to be off by 10 days every single year. So if you're using a translation that says the moon, it's going to be incorrect and contradictory to the verses around, all the other verses around Enoch 74. And another thing is, so verse 12, which is where it's talking about the sun and the stars bring in all the years exactly. You could just see, so that they, plural, they, that's another key factor, that they. So in the translations that you'll see moon here, this they is still the plural here. So they're talking about plural when it's a singular moon described here. That's another key factor in showing the moon does not belong there. And it's a lying pen of the scribes. So let me just go ahead and read it. It says Enoch 74 verses 11 through 12. So in the excess of the sun and the excess of the sun and of the stars amount to 6 days in 5 years, 6 days. So every year comes to 30 days, and the moon falls behind the sun and stars to the number of 30 days. So again, this 30 days is talking about how the moon is falling behind. This right here, this 6 days and 5 years, is talking about the excess days of the sun and the stars. And then verse 12. So, and the sun and the stars bring in all the years exactly, so that they do not advance or delay their position by a single day unto everlasting, but complete the years with perfect justice in 364 days. So again, the excess days of the sun is going to be that 1.25. We use the 1 every year. The 0.25 is going to add up 4 years to another day. And then you're going to see the sun and the stars are bringing in all the years. The moon is not counted in there. And all the verses Enoch's talking about describing the moon phases, I think it's 73. It's not going to say that the moon's bringing in the year in 364 days. It's actually talking about how it falls short. Because, you know, people want to take that chapter out of Enoch out of context as well. He's describing the moon phases because they happen. Not once does he say to account them for a numbering of years or count them into a month or anything like that. What he does talk about is a lunar month, which he goes and talks about all throughout his books of the luminaries. He also shows there is a difference between a lunar month, which is 28 or 29 days, and a true month, which is only 30 days, which is governed by the sun. As we can see in Jubilees. So, and here's just some things, it's actually Sister Germaine brought out. So the fourth commandment, keep the Shabbat. The fourth day of creation was when time was set in motion, the sun, moon, and stars created. Fourth gate, Gadol Dalet. The fourth letter in the alphabet equals door, or the passageway. So this is, again, more confirmation. The fourth gate on the fourth day, starting the head of the months. So the fourth menorah branch is the longest straight branch. And 3 days later, the seventh branch, which is Shabbat. So here in Chronicles, we're going to have two different verses, but it's going to be showing the equinox, and it's going to be showing day 4 is tracked in the temple. And again, 2 Chronicles 29. This is going to be verse 3 here. We'll start with. Oops. Did not mean to do that. So in the first year of his reign, in the first month, he opened the doors of the house of Yahuwah and repaired them. So Chronicles 29:3. Here's Chronicles 2 Chronicles 29:17 next. And they began to set apart the first day of the first month. And on the 8th day of the month, they came to the porch of Yahuwah. And they set apart the house of Yahuwah in 8 days. And on the 16th day of the first month, they had finished. And again, tracking the 4th day, this is showing the first day of the first month. There's a significant reason for that. And we're actually going to get into it right here in Exodus 40, verse 1 through 2. But first we're going to read 1 Samuel 20, verse 5. Sorry. So, and David said to Jonathan, see, tomorrow is the head of the month, and I ought to sit with the sovereign to eat. But let me go, and I shall hide in the field until the 3rd day at evening. So it's showing the seasonal intercalary day. Again, many versions will erroneously translate this to tomorrow is the new moon. No, it's going to be tomorrow is the head of the month. It's Chodesh. It's not YAHUAH. And interesting enough, 3 days later after, the head of the month happens to be a Shabbat. So it's pretty interesting how he says he'll hide in the field until the 3rd day at evening. Some interesting things. But here in Exodus 40, 1 through 2. So, and Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, on the 1st day of the 1st month, you are to raise up the dwelling place of the tent of meeting. Equinox tracked by the tabernacle, day 4. So how would they know it's the 1st day of the 1st month? Well, like we described earlier, this right here, we get day 4, equinox, sun rising in the east, perfectly shining in, lighting up the courtyard, lighting up the Holy of Holies. Does anybody have questions about any of these verses so far? Or anything they'd like to add? If not, we can just continue. All right. So we'll just continue. Psalm 90, and this is going to be 12 through 15. So this is going to be the numbering of days by Yahuwah. So teach us to number our days, and let us bring the heart to wisdom. Return, O YAHUAH, how long? And be sorry for your servants. Satisfy in the morning with your kindness, and let us sing for joy all of our days. Give us joy according to the days you have afflicted us, and the years have seen that we have seen evil. So again, just showing we are to number our days. Our days are numbered, just like the numbering of days in a year. Just how Enoch's numbering of days happened to line up exactly with the divider day that happens every year. And then this one's a really important one coming up next. It's Lamentations chapter 2, verse 6. This is going to be one of the verses showing Sabbath day was forgotten. So, and he has demolished his booth like a garden. He has destroyed his place of meeting. YAHUAH has made the appointed times and Sabbaths to be forgotten in Zion, and despises sovereigns and priests in his raging displeasure. Why? Because they're no longer following his festivals or Sabbaths. They are following Babylon by citing new moons and so forth. And so Enoch 71, verses 12 through 14. So the head of days, what's going to be the head of days? The divider day. It's an allusion to the divider day every year. So Enoch 71, 12 through 14. And these barakoth or blessings went forth out of my mouth, were well pleasing before the head of days. And that head of days came with Michael and Gabriel and Raphael and Panuel, and thousands and 10,000s of messengers without number. And he came to me, and greeted me with his voice, and said to me, This is the Ben, or the son of Adam, who is born unto righteousness, and righteousness abides over him, and righteousness of the head of days does not forsake him. So again, showing this head of days, this divider day that happens at the head of every year. Yahushua HaMashiach, it does not forsake him. Sorry, I had to drink some water real quick. So, and then we have the calendar is determined by the movements of the sun and stars again, which is going to be a second witness to Enoch 74:12. So, Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7, verses 17 through 19. So, for he has given me certain knowledge of that which exists, namely, to know how the world was made, and the operation of the elements, the beginning, ending, and middle of times, the alterations of the turning of the sun, and the changing of the seasons, and the circuit of years, and position of stars. So again, we see, the calendar being determined by the turnings of the sun and position of the stars. No moon in there. Now, again, we're not tossing out the moon. We're not saying the moon is unimportant. The moon isn't to be used. It is a witness. And we are still working on exactly what it is going to be witness for. And I believe it's going to be for when it's rising and setting in the same gates as the sun does. The moon is definitely not for months, and it's definitely not for Sabbaths, and it's definitely not for festivals. Jubilees is quite clear on that. So again, we're going to see, the two great signs of the sun. It's going to be like the two pillars of the temple, Boaz and Jachin. So March 16th, equinox, equal day and night in Israel, according to Enoch 72:32. It's going to be at the head of day 1, and then day 2, day 3. Day 4 is going to be March 20th, equinox, straight line shadow, Ezekiel 43:4, and many other verses as we see. So these are marking the 3 days of creation before the sun, moon, and stars were created of day 4. It's always going to be these two pillars that are marking these 3 days. And again, just showing, the equal day and equal night, and the equinox, which is the straight line shadow, straight line sunbeam, what have you. Going to always be day 4 when the luminaries were created. And the Qumran sundial again here, just to show you. Equinox right here, and equilux is going to be right here. This is what I am thinking. This is what's going through my head, because this is literally right here next to the equinox marker, and it's showing that little equal day and equal night, or equal kind of marker at this specific time. And again, the narrow gate, or the day 4 marker coming up, shining in the temple, marking day 4, lighting up the courtyard and the Holy of Holies. And again, we've got the March 16th equinox. Does anybody have any questions they would like to ask, or anything they'd like to add? All right. All right. Well, with that, I kind of wanted to go on to the rest of the presentation. And since last week we talked a little bit about the synagogue of Satan, this week we're going to go into a little bit about Rome. Give me just a moment here. All right. So first, I kind of wanted to show a little video. And we kind of mentioned this channel here a few times. It's called My Lunch Break. It can be found on YouTube. But what is basically to show is, how a lot of structures all across the earth are built and designed the same exact way. They were all given basically this narrative story all around the same exact time, all across the earth. And it's going to connect kind of a few dots before we get into connecting even more dots. And it's going to be connections with Rome, the U.S. government, other governments, the over there in the land of Israel as well. It's gonna connect quite a few dots here. So let me get it started here. We'll just watch it really quickly. It's not even a 20-minute video, but I'll put it on 1.2 so we can get it done in just a shorter amount of time.
So we know this group began in 1717. We know that all of these inventions, the car, the train, the plane, all of it, came within the last 200 years. We know that these great fires all over the world happened in the 1800s and took basically nobody's life. We know that the population spiked around the 1800s from basically nobody to billions of people in just the last 200 years, where we are starting to pin the start date of our current timeline down, because today we're taking this research a step further. Today, we are looking into the money. On April 2nd, 1792, the U.S. Congress passed the Mint Act, which was the beginning of the dollar. It was also the first country in the world to adopt the decimal system for currency. And now when we go over to the UK and see that they also started to use the British pound in 1707, making it the official currency of the UK, when England and Scotland united to form a single country. Even China making a brand new currency in 1948. This new currency was introduced in 1948, taking over the previous currency, which was introduced in 1889. All of these currencies, all starting within the last 300 years, worldwide, where we can go to Russia and see that their currency also begins in 1704. So apparently, in the 1600s, nobody had any money. And yet, we are told that they were knocking out palaces all over the world. I think we're seeing that our timeline really began right around 1700. I think this is when all of the structural things, like governments, banks, the foundation of our civilization, I think this is when it all began. And this is all based on what we're being told, the dates that they provide us, the information that we are given using their data. So we have the top 10 banks in the world based on market cap, with JP Morgan at number 1, with a start date of 1871. Bank of America, starting in 1922. Industrial and Commercial Bank of China, started in 1984. Now we have shown that so much has started within the last 300 years. Everything that we have today that is a part of our civilization has been introduced within the last 300 years. And at the exact same time, right when we get the USA, right when we get these banks, these currencies, right when all this happens, this is the exact point in time that our civilization sees a massive spike in population. At no other point in time have humans repopulated at this rate of 66% increase every 69 years. Billions of people at a rapid pace. According to the mainstream narrative, we are told that we're at our peak right now. We are the most advanced civilization ever. We have the most technology. We have the most amount of people. When this is simply not true, in my opinion. I believe that we have been given all of this technology back. I've said this before, but it is so true. I believe that our civilization is as advanced as we're allowed to be. We see these inventions just flying at us in the 1800s. Cars, phones, TVs, electricity, planes, you name it. When you're in charge of controlling an entire civilization, 300 years is nothing. To us, the 1800s were a long time ago, but in reality, this is nothing. We are being told that AI is a brand new thing, when it has, in my opinion, been here a very long time. And if we're being shown AI, could you imagine what else is not being shown to us? Thinking logically and using the information that we're provided, in my opinion, we are pinning this narrative down. We are finding our civilization's beginning point. And the more people that see this, the more people that understand this information, the more people that we have researching and looking for the truth, the probability of us finding the truth about our past becomes more and more eminent. All of this explains why we have buildings sitting in all of our cities and most of our towns that don't fit into our timeline. They don't look anything like the way we build today. And the only way to explain it logically is that an advanced civilization was here before us that fully understood how to create massive palaces. And it was a civilization that was worldwide. We see these cathedrals and basilicas in every single continent. It's not like it was just limited to a single location. This was a worldwide understanding, and something massive happened to them. And right around 1700, our civilization began occupying this land, with their work looking us straight in the face. Welcome to episode 65 of My Lunch Break. I hope you're all having a great day, and if you're new, welcome. And I want to thank all of our sponsors over on Patreon. Thank you to FlatEarthDave.com. You can check out his app. I'll put the link in the description, and you can use my referral code, MLB. He also has my and helping this channel out a lot. In episode 64, we were looking into Budapest, and we found this character that was building palaces at 23 years old, winning contests for massive parliament buildings, where Budapest had so many master palace architects that they didn't even need to use the winner's design. Mr. Hausmann was pinned to a lot of buildings, like we've shown, but we need to officially close the book on this guy. We've covered the New York Palace in Budapest, which is now a 185-room palace hotel and cafe. They tell us that this building opened up in 1894 as the headquarters for the New York Life Insurance Company, where life insurance is yet another thing that starts right up in 1706. The first company to ever offer life insurance was founded in London, 1706, 1 year before the British pound became the official currency of the UK. At this point, it is becoming incredibly evident that something massive happened at this point in time. It's just one thing after the next. And if all of this wasn't true, then the mainstream narrative would have given us something major that was created in the 1500s by now. A single company from the 1400s. You would think that there would be some sort of progression over time, that something would still be here from the 1500s. It's not mathematically probable that every single invention, all the money, billions of people, all of it, comes in a matter of 300 years. And before this, basically nobody rode around on donkeys and lived by candlelight, writing with duck feathers, yet knocked out massive castles and basilicas. It doesn't add up at all. Everything was given back to us, starting around this date of 1700, where in my opinion, they were laying the groundwork, the foundation of our new civilization, and our new civilization was being formed. And then after it was all situated, and they had control over all the major things that a controller would want to be in control of, governments and laws, financial institutions, insurance companies, taxes, and the rest. After this was done, the okay was given to start repopulating this place again. And 300 years later, here we all are. Now, before we take this research to the next level, let's take a minute and thank all of our badge members, all of our Patreons, and every single subscriber. You are all awesome in helping grow this channel to reach new people every single week. And this is becoming clearer and clearer by the episode. When we take a look at inflation, where it basically follows the exact same chart that the world population does when we have nothing going on before the 1700s, and then just takes off. I think we have located the beginning point of our current civilization based on math and information that they have provided us, where there's nothing. And out of nowhere, in 1700, everything is created and billions of people just come out of nowhere. Inventions all over the place, with wars to confuse people, demoralize the ones involved, and destroy massive cities that give it all away. Where, according to the data provided, people reproduce at basically 66% growth every 69 years. And this is documented. So what was going on in the 1200s? Well, according to the mainstream narrative, everybody stayed away from each other. Nobody wanted kids, apparently, for hundreds and thousands of years. The population was basically nobody. And then the 1700s hit, and all of a sudden, humans want to repopulate at a rate that's never been seen before. And it's not even close, where it goes from nobody to billions of people in just a few hundred years. When we know that this is the rate in which humans repopulate, and they know this as well. And when you wipe the population out, humans will repopulate at this rate yet again. And through the first 64 episodes, we have so many different things that show that this is the case, basically proving that there have been previous civilizations. And at this point, it wouldn't be shocking at all if it was over 100 billion people and they were extremely advanced, a community that can't see until the savior, Benjamin, comes around, where 63.7% of people need glasses today. And I'm just going to take a guess and say that the 1200s people didn't have 20/20 vision either, meaning that they also needed glasses, but we are told they didn't have them. And they also didn't have a light bulb. So no lights, no glasses. Could you imagine this group of people in the 1200s, where we are told that they built Buda Castle, stumbling around at night with no glasses and no lights, yet getting palaces done no problem at all, and not a single mistake anywhere. Over 100 feet in the air, perfectly put together by people that can't see. A community that supposedly didn't even create the pencil for another 500 years. But Buda castles are no problem at all, where in the future, we can even show that the oldest prison in the USA was built in 1720, where you might say, yeah, that's because the USA was formed in 1776. And then we go over to England, and the first state prison in England was the Millbank Prison, established in 1816. And 8 years later, in 1824, 54 other prisons had formed and adopted this system. And we will have an episode fully dedicated to this in the very near future. I found some other things that I thought you all might enjoy. So let's start the bonus. The St. Paul St. Louis, which is a church located in Paris, France, with construction beginning in 1627. Beginning in 1627, 397 years ago, in a time period that we have shown, according to the mainstream narrative, had just a little over no people, yet able to knock out the Buddha Castle and massive palaces. It was the booming 1600s, before all currencies. They just decided they would just go trade a donkey or two for some limestone. They would give the architect a pineapple for his skills. And this was completed in 1641, perfectly. They give us this story that we've seen so often, where the first church on the exact same site was built around 1125. 899 years ago. And they give us a story of a chemist that gets guillotined, just to make us think that they know all about the backstory of these buildings, where we have shown in episode 33, when you just email them about a building that was built in the 1900s, they have no clue who built it. These narratives are story hour, in my opinion. They hold zero truth. They are as trustworthy as a child's bedtime story, where we are told that there was a cemetery connected to this first church, the one that was built 900 years ago. And then the cemetery just disappeared, and the old church was demolished in 1799, because they just needed an upgrade in 1799. And here's another one of those situations where we have these reoccurring names with these stories, where we've seen all the Fredericks in episode 43. But here they give the reoccurring names in a different way. When they say Louis the Ninth and Louis the Eighth, where I understand that this is possible, but we've seen it so many times. The reoccurring names are, in my opinion, exposing that these stories were created by an AI generator. It throws the same name right into the story over and over. It's a pattern, and the AI works on patterns, where if a human wrote this story, they would just make up a new name. And I think this is why we see so many people named Henry the Ninth in these narratives from hundreds of years ago. I think it's a code. They could just say Henry the 30th, and nobody would ever question it. Just accepting this narrative for years, when I think it's clearly a key to look deeper into these stories, these buildings and castles surrounding these characters. So the city supposedly grew too big, and the chapel was replaced, where they know that Louis VIII laid the cornerstone. And when you know, you know. The building's original name holds Mason, Jesuits. The architect of the new church was the Jesuit priest. So now we are made to believe that the 1600s priests were also master architects. This was the first church in Paris to stop using the Gothic style and now use the Baroque style, when the famous Jesuit preacher preached some of his memorable sermons in the church. All documented, of course? No. So my question is, who is this Jesuit priest architect that just knocks out palaces in the 1600s that last forever? We are told that he was born in 1569 and had two brothers who both became Jesuits as well. Almost nothing is known about his early life. Nothing. It's a big mystery, just like the mainstream narrative likes it. But don't worry, they know all about every other detail of the rest of his life. Joining the Jesuit order in 1590, when he was 21, this group, the Jesuits, established themselves in France in the 1560s, but were banned in 1595 after attempting to kill Henry IX. But that's okay, because they let him back in 8 years later. So this master architect, he wasn't even the best one, where he would supposedly draw up all these kinds of buildings, no problem at all, and send them back to a superior general that would have to approve them. So we're supposed to believe a time period where we're told that the population was like 10 people. They also had all kinds of people just waiting around to draw up palaces. And some guy was sitting in his chair throwing master designs in the no pile. How ridiculous does this sound? Now, of course, when they pin a guy to one building, there are always so many more. Here's the first one, which is still in use today. Built this one, and then he also supposedly built the Blois Cathedral, a cathedral that also had multiple buildings. The first one started in the 1100s. However, nothing is left of the original structure. It's just gone. And the next one starts 450 years later. Of course it does. When this one is destroyed by a storm, they get back to work in the 1680s. And then the Americans' bombardment during World War II destroys most of the glass work in the cathedral. When we know that this sounds like there was something on the glass that told a story, possibly things that would give something away about our past, things that we're not supposed to see, thinking logically, why would the glass be broken and everything else is fine? It sounds to me like these people just went in there and broke the glass and replaced it with the new narrative. What better way to do this than to just chalk it up to a war?
Yeah, some pretty incredible stuff there. Yeah, 1582 was when they changed the Julian calendar to the Gregorian. Yeah. Yeah, so this is going to be, I can share this actually in the chat here, which I'll do, but it's my lunch break here on YouTube. He's got some very fascinating videos. Let me just send this to our chat here. So I just linked this video we just watched into our chat, which is also going to link us back to the rest of our discussion. And if you noticed, I kind of chose that video because he was mentioning, you know, Jesuits and Masons and so forth. Well, guess what the St. Peter's Square is in the Vatican City? Oh, look at the architecture. We got just this. All exactly the same architecture and style that you can find all across the earth. And then we look right here. Oh, we got this. What do you know? An obelisk. And then, of course, you know, these statues that they were no doubt Greek god statues that they call saints now. We know that is incorrect. But is that a sundial? It could have been, honestly. That still can be a sundial. Here, let me go back. There. That's true. It can be a sundial there, Sister Adrian. But, you know, just looking, this is Vatican City. As you can see. What else? What other buildings would this remind you of? With the obelisk standing right out front here, the Egyptian obelisks. Just some of the architecture of this. Oh, yeah, you are right there, Sister Adrian. We're going to get to that. So check it out. We got the U.S. Capitol building. How it looks exactly the same. Exactly the same. Right down to the obelisk that's right in front of it. And if you notice, these triangles or pyramid type shapes that come into play, and we got the obelisk. It's kind of strange. It's like bricked here when it doesn't actually look like brick like that. Interesting. They must have something going on here. But yes, obelisks, they were a Egyptian thing as well. And just more the architecture of, you know, the capital and so forth. So, did you know there's that obelisk? Actually, here, let me go right here. So, there's two obelisks called Cleopatra's Needles. One is going to be in New York City. The other is going to be in the UK. And these are legitimate Egyptian obelisks that they brought over from Egypt. One is right here in New York. Oh, look. They're designs of using horses and buggies to lift this thing. Of course, it's an illustration, not an actual photo. But an Egyptian obelisk right there in New York. So that's one of Cleopatra's Needles. And we got the other one here. Let's see. Cleopatra's Needle in London. As you can see, it's the same type of thing, just in London now, instead of New York. Very interesting. Egyptian obelisks in these countries. Oh, but wait. There's one in Paris as well. Egyptian obelisk right here in Paris. Looking like the same stuff. You got the symbols all over it. Obelisk of Luxor in Paris. Now you know why they call the one in Vegas Luxor. It's an homage to this one that's right there in Paris, but they don't like to tell you. Oh, look. Look at this one here. A pyramid triangle shape. The obelisk. You will find this all across the earth. These pyramids, these obelisks, these buildings that are all designed exactly the same as they are in Rome. Here's another surprise. Oh, that's not what I meant. Or actually, yeah, we'll start here then. So another reason I wanted to kind of focus on a little bit of the money is when we take a look at our dollar bill here in the U.S. There's a reason they've changed every other bill except for the $1 bill. $1 bill has always been the same for a very long time. You will see right here, this is exactly why. Uh-oh. What does this remind you of? That's why the blue lines are above and below it. Right here, Israel. Their modern flag. Why? Because the U.S. serves and worships them. We know because all the presidents go and meet with them. And we got to remember, Jesuit also means a Jew pretending to be Catholic. And we have a Jesuit Pope. So here's just another example. More pyramids, stars of Remphams, and so forth, right on the dollar bill, making another star of Rempham with the hexagon. There is also a hexagonal shape in the planet Saturn, or quote-unquote planet Saturn, right at the top. Which actually, let me show that. Oh, look, there's a really good picture of it right there. This is Saturn's hexagon, and we see this same pattern fits right in this hexagon shape. Look, hexagon shape right here. Hexagon shape on Saturn. Hexagon. Why? It's because the star of Rempham fits in there. And who is Saturn? Oh, Saturn represents Satan. So, of course, most of us know for a fact these are all CGI fake images. We know we do not live in a vacuum of space on a ball where we have pressurized atmosphere next to a vacuum. You cannot have a pressurized atmosphere next to a vacuum existing without some kind of barrier there. So what they tell us literally goes against their own science. Because if we lived next to this vacuum, everything would be sucked off. Like, we would not be on a ball. We would be floating in this vacuum because everything gets sucked off. Gravity is not a barrier. Gases are not a barrier. We would be sucked off because vacuum works against gravity. As you can see, you take a vacuum hose, you could suck something up off the floor. It's working against gravity. Yeah, exactly. Sister Adrian sharing the here, let me see if I could share that actually in the chat. Or let me get the pictures. Here, I'll just share the, I'll just screen share it. So, the Star of Remphan is a symbol that is most well known for its appearance in the Bible's book of Amos. Amos 5:26. Prophet criticizes the Israelites for worshiping false gods, including the Star of Remphan. It's kind of hard to see, but it's literally what they use over there, and they call it the Star of David. Oh no, it's not. David didn't have a star. He didn't use a star as a symbol. But Remphan did, who is a lowercase god. This reference has led to various interpretations of the symbol, particularly regarding its association with idolatry and pagan worship. Just what we talked about last week, the synagogue of Hasatan over there. See, and look at that. Bible scholars generally agree that the word Remphan refers to the planet Saturn. Oh, Satan. And the star of Remphan is often associated with the planet Saturn and in relation to the Sabbath. It refers to the connection between Saturn and Saturday, considered the Sabbath day in Judaism, where Saturn is seen as the ruling celestial body for that day based on ancient astrological beliefs. Essentially, the star of Remphan is a symbolic representation of Saturn on the Sabbath day. So this is another reason, this is showing Saturday is not always going to be the Sabbath day of Yahuwah. So let me get back to here. So we're also going to see, look at that. There's an obelisk right there in Jerusalem. Caesarea obelisk. Pretty interesting stuff, huh? And it's not the only one in Jerusalem. They got them all over the place, as you can see. Obelisks everywhere in Jerusalem. Even black obelisks in Israel with Egyptian writing all over it. So as we can see, there is something fishy going on, isn't there? And I believe it's because we live in a Babylonian, Roman, Egyptian state, which is Mystery Babylon. It's literally Babylon, Rome, and Egypt mixed into one. We have Babylonian cities. We have Roman government and laws. And we have Egyptian pyramids and obelisks all over the place. All over. So here's a little map showing just pyramids all across the earth. So this is, of course, not going to be every single one of them. There's ones they don't want to identify as pyramids because they don't want history being revealed. You can see right here, North America, a bunch of them. Right here in the States. Of course, Mexico, South America. We got ones in the middle of the ocean. More in the middle of the ocean by Iceland. Up here by the UK and Sweden. Of course, all across Germany, Poland, France. Of course, Egypt. We can just see pyramids all across, everywhere. Everywhere. So here we're talking about pyramids in just America. So we got this article here is actually pretty good. Pyramids in America appeared 5,000 years ago, and 2,000 different pyramids can be found in North, Central, and South America, from Peru to the U.S. And these mounds, also here in America, we got a lot of these mounds. They're just buried pyramids. And here we go with the ads nonstop. It's kind of why I didn't have it on this, sitting on this page, but you know, there's even pyramids in Canada. Pyramids in Canada. Scowlitz mounds, as what they are calling them. Pyramids in the U.S. Of course, you know, the mounds. Mounds in Mississippi, different looking pyramids. Pyramids in Central America. So as we can see, there are just pyramids everywhere, all across the earth. Obelisks everywhere, all across the earth. The Temple of the Feathered Serpent, or the Plumed Serpent, which is Amurika, if you didn't know. I just wanted to see if they got some pictures. Yeah. So we got pictures everywhere. We got, you know, Bass Pro Shop pyramids, where this is the Luxor Pyramid in Nevada. Of course, a modern one, but, you know, they've got pyramids literally everywhere. Like a pyramid in North Dakota, it's just covered in dirt. What's this one? North America. There's pyramids in Memphis, like, of course, modern ones. But as you can see, look, here's a pyramid with obelisks in the Americas. Pyramids in the Grand Canyon. Very interesting stuff. And this is just showing, you know, our history is a complete lie. What they tell us, when these things were made, how they were made. They act like they have the entire backstory of everything, when all they're doing is feeding us a bunch of lies and propaganda to hide exactly who we are, where we came from. They want to lie and hide about who exactly they are serving, where we get all these rules and regulations and governments and buildings all over the earth that all seem to look the same as Rome. You know, this is information they don't like getting out. This is why they lie about it. They give us these false narratives and dates about when all these things were made and created. The interesting is all these false narratives seem to be the exact same all across the earth for every building. We got great fires all across the earth around the same times that are destroying these cities so they can hide the evidence. What wasn't burned down and destroyed, they make a narrative for. Or they make it some kind of Capitol building or library, or in this case, Vatican City. They got, I mean, it's blatantly obvious when you look at it. You can just see, you know, these Roman, or these canals and bridges, all these things, looking all the same all across the earth. And, you know, I recommend watching some of the My Lunch Break channel's videos. You know, he's got a lot of videos. We'll just kind of go here. He's just got a lot of videos from all over, and they're showing, you know, above ground, underground, castles here, palaces there, all the same all across the earth. You name it. You name a country, it's going to be there. Same architectural design, made around all the same times, 17 to 1800s. Then we got the fire games where, you know, every city all across the earth is given some kind of fire narrative where, you know, these ancient buildings were somehow destroyed in these terrible great fires. Does anybody have anything they would like to add or talk about as well?
So
There's a
in
oh, go
one
ahead.
of the oh hold on I'm okay, so in one of the studies that I watched, and I it was either Mary or someone else that posted it, but they were talking about how um when
When
Rome
Rome
had
had
destroyed the temple, that
that
was
was
the
the
revelation of the
revelation of the
beast
beast
turning on the
turning on the
mother
mother
after
after
Messiah had
Messiah had
ascended.
ascended. Yeah, yeah. Because, all right, so what I have found, you know, Rome is literally the beast of Revelation, and the harlot is the nation state of Israel, or the Pharisees and rabbinic Jews and so forth that are following after her. They're riding Rome. You know, they're humping the Roman fort wall. You know, we have a Jesuit pope, which Jesuit is just a term for a Jew who's identifying as Catholic, or a Jew pretending to be a Catholic. Yeah, yeah. Pyramid Peak Parkway by a neighborhood called Terramar. Yeah, I'm in Phoenix as well. That's why that seemed all familiar. Yeah. Yeah, oh, for sure they have hidden pyramids and such here. You know, I believe the ASU mountain, they call it A Mountain. Or not that one, the Tempe Mountain. One of those two. The one that's next to the I-10 anyway. It looks just like a broken tree stump here. And I'm sure people who don't live here wouldn't know what I'm talking about, but you know, for those of you who don't live in Phoenix, there's like a mountain right next to the I-10 here, which is just a highway. But the I-10 kind of curves around it, but it literally looks like a broken tree stump, like a giant one. I'm sure, you know, people can find similar things in all across the earth. So I actually do have a video on my channel where I go through, let's see, I go through who the beast is and the harlot. I just gotta find it. Let's see if I can find it here. I have so many videos, if you guys didn't know. But, you know, I've done a lot of readings. We've gone through a lot of studies here. Most of these I've read with my son Callan. You know, here's my testing of the Book of Jasher. I wanted to do more videos of this, but, you know, just the first few chapters alone was enough for me. Let's see. Yeah, see, this is 4 years ago. I was starting to do a lot of research in this with a biblical view as well. So many questions, not enough answers. And that's kind of where I started getting into like the mud flood and all these things. But then as soon as questions become answered, you get 100 more questions that become unanswered when you go further. Anyways, let me try and find, where is it? Goodness, it must have been way down here. Oh, you know what? It's because it wasn't a live stream, it was a video I uploaded. That's why. Here we go. The harlot who rides the beast. And we got the papal beast. Here's the one I was looking for. So it's just a quick 6-minute video, but I'll play it really fast. I'll put the link in the chat as well. But here, let me play this video really quickly. And, you know, this is going to just show the papal beast. All right. So yeah, you can see all the verses coming together to show exactly who this beast is. And, you know, I've also got the harlot video as well. As you can see, they are a little bit outdated, as our understanding on when the Sabbath day is has changed since then, but you get the idea. Does anybody have questions or anything they would like to add? Is it making sense to everybody so far?
Absolutely, to me.
Praise Yah.
Hey, Jeremy,
Yeah.
can you send me a printout to my email of the calendar, how you're separating Shabbats?
You mean the calendar layout?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can do that.
I appreciate it.
I also have it. It's in the other discussion group as well. It's in the
Uh-huh.
PDF section.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Is that going like from year to year, or is that just for 1 year?
Yeah, so it's going to be for 1 year and all the years, because it's going to fall on the same dates every year.
Okay.
Except for that every fourth year, only the last couple weeks are going to be they're going to be slightly off by a day because of the Gregorian leap year, and they add their 29th day in February.
Uh-huh.
So the last like 2 weeks, the dates will slightly be off, but then we come right back to March 20th anyway as day 4.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to look at that and kind of line it up with some of the stuff I've done too. So I'm
Awesome.
always open.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm working on an updated version as well, where I'm going to add, you know, the heads of the months in there, and instead of using the Gregorian month names, I'm just going to use their number to correlate it.
Yeah. Well, we've never changed the Shabbat, okay, by us mapping it out. We haven't done that. It's something to consider, look into.
Yeah.
But we've done it all the way from 2016 to 2040. If you'll look on those tabs that I sent you and see how that comes out. So.
Yeah. No, we've been doing a lot of studying as well, and you know, that's what some of our last videos we were going over is because, you know, before coming to this understanding, you know, we were in all the discussion groups, and there was just no evidence of, you know, waiting until after the markers that are in heaven. There was no evidence of, you know, drifting behind them every year and then catching up to it by adding a week. Like we've gone in all these discussions, and it was just always that same kind of circle. Like, well, which one is it, the equinox or the equilux? Do we add a week here? Do we add a week there? Or what's going on? And none of them can really, none of that can really be found in scriptures. And it wasn't until we started watching another channel where they were presenting this method, and it was tough for me to get at first too. But once you see, basically, it's Yahuwah's markers in heavens that are marking things. So he puts these markers at the same time every year.
Did you look at the atot that I sent you and the rules for the atot out of the Dead Sea Scrolls as far as Shekinah and Gabal?
The Mishmarots and such?
Yeah.
That,
It's called the Atote. It's in the Mishra. Yeah.
yeah. Now I've read through all of that.
Uh-huh.
In some of our videos we discussed that a little bit, where these moon phases are translation or author's insertions of what they think the text was saying in there.
Sure.
So if you go through and read it, it's
Yeah,
not
anything
actually going to have these
parentheses.
moon phases,
Yep.
but it'll have this word dukkha.
Yes.
And scholars they actually don't agree on what that word means. So they all kind of went with, oh, well, it must be moon phases, so we'll put moon phases in there.
Yeah. Right.
And because, yeah, if you read it, you'll see all the moon phases. They're all in parentheses and brackets and so forth.
Sure.
So when
Sure.
we
So we
remove
know
that,
that's insertions. Yeah.
yeah, okay, got it. Sweet.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, we're still working on the moon. We're trying to figure out exactly what it's the witness for, because we know it's not for the months.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, just a lot of studying with the Dead Sea Scrolls, and I think a lot of people read Enoch and don't understand it.
Yeah.
In certain areas. But yeah, I did send you just a deal on the rule of the Atote out of the scrolls.
Yeah, I got that one. I got all your emails. I have them all starred in my inbox. Pretty busy week, so
Right.
I'll definitely be going over them when I get a chance to, though, brother.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it takes a lot of studying. 2011, me and Jerry Morris. I'm still on his channel, by the way. So, but he passed away. But
yeah, okay. I was actually wondering about that, but yeah.
yeah, he did, and I was his partner. I'm the one that did all the video editing and did studying with him, and we went through it. We was going in 2011. We understood that it was a calendar. So I remember typing in on the computer Zadok, and you couldn't find anything that would come up on Google. Nothing. And I remember this. Nothing. And we built our first sundial. We sent out plans, and we noticed somebody started doing them too. So out of the wooden deals, they would cut those out, and it was a set of plans so you could make your own sundial. But yeah, we kind of laid a foundation, and it's pretty awesome to see a lot of people build on it. But it's such a wreck, and it's such a mess, because like I said, when we typed in Zadok, there was nothing that came up but one thing, and it went to the Queen of England. There was nothing, but now you type in Zadok, and it just goes everywhere. And then all of a sudden we had 500 Enoch calendars, and then Zadok calendars. It was just a mess.
Yeah.
The wreck, the train wreck. It's
Well, and I
sad
think
to
most
see.
of that has to do with the fact that there are different translations of Enoch too, which can be very confusing if you are not getting the one that is from the Dead Sea Scrolls.
True. And I wish we had a Hebrew text of it, or Aramaic, or one of the two. And they do have one. They did have one, but somebody bought it, and it's never been found again. That's fact.
Right.
Yep.
So it's kind of hard going with the English translation, because if you ever read your scriptures and you're looking through the Hebrew, and I don't even believe the modern Hebrew is correct. I think it's always been the Paleo.
Yeah, I agree.
That's your ancient Hebrew. But I don't know if you've read a book, and I didn't buy it because the lady thinks that she's something within that verse. I bought it to look at the languages, but it's very interesting. And it's the ancient biblical Hebrew. It's the etymology of ancient biblical Hebrew. And she calls it Manichathi. And she makes some very interesting things in here as far as the language goes. And I'm going through it and looking at it and trying to, test it a little bit and see. But it's pretty interesting. So
Yeah, that's the book that I had purchased about 2 years ago. Jeremy, I took a picture of it and sent it on the chat.
Yeah.
That's the book that he's talking about.
Okay. Yeah.
And
Is that
it's the primitive sign language
Yep.
of Manicotti.
It's interesting.
It is. Did you ever
She
see
makes
any of
pretty
her
good points.
videos of her doing the sign language that goes along with the Manicotti?
Yep.
Yeah, it was very interesting. Excuse me.
Thought to myself, I wish I'd known the sign language because you're going to be judged for every idle word. So it'd be better to maybe use sign language.
Oh goodness.
Could you actually put that in the chat? That would be great for my son and my kid to learn the sign language.
Yeah, she has videos that actually shows how to do the paleo, and actually she doesn't call it Hebrew because there was no Hebrews when the language was, when we only had one language. That's why I don't know how she came up with Manicotti. She might have explained it somewhere in the book, but she does have videos on YouTube. I'd have to look it back up, but I did take a picture of what the book looked like and put it in the chat.
Oh, that's exciting. Wow.
Yeah, it is. It's very, very interesting.
Yeah, because I'm sitting here trying to learn the Hebrew myself and to try to teach the kids, but it's just, I feel right now is just very, very confusing because I don't know which way to say it, vav or uah, or, what the ayin say.
I think the wah is a ooh sound. Ooh.
Ooh.
Like YAHUAH. You like YAHUAH?
Okay.
It's a ooh. Some people say wav, some people say vav. It's nothing to fight over. And it's just, but that's how they pronounce it in the paleo, as a ooh sound.
Do you want me to post a picture of the book again, Katrina?
No, I'll look at it.
Okay.
I'll find it.
Okay, sweetie.
But she's on YouTube.
She is.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'll find her. I will find her. You know that I will.
Oh, we know this.
Yeah. Mama?
I just missed that. Who was it you're trying to find? Was it to do with Hebrew? Can you just remind? Because I missed it because I was out of the room.
I'll put it up here.
Yeah, would you mind sharing the name of that book again?
There you go. Did I post that in the right chat?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Now, at the Tower of Babel, the original language had been lost, and there was an angel that helped Abraham. It said the angel helped him untwist his tongue and opened his mouth and his eyes to understand the language that was lost. And so Abraham was able to then translate the writings that he had got handed down from Shem. So even Abraham didn't have the original language until Yah commanded one of the angels to help him understand.
Oh, yeah. I remember that verse, actually.
Yeah, so then he must have helped teach his children, and so on and so forth, the original language. So, I mean, to me, it's probably even rarer now than it was then.
Yeah, I would say so.
I say the English has got to be the worst language ever.
It's spell casting, really.
It really is.
Yeah, 100%.
Just like when you say gospel, uh, and you're casting a spell. So, but yeah, it's a mess. When I read and I'm looking up each Hebrew word, you'd be surprised that what you're reading in English, it doesn't even say that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's horrible. It's
Hey,
frustrating,
I
but
was
it's true.
wondering if you
Not
could
in
take a
everything.
look. I was wondering if you could take a look at the moon names given in, what was it, Enoch, guys? If you could put them into paleo and we could figure out what they mean. Like the sun's name, there's 2 names for the sun and there's 4 names for the moon. I'm really
Uh,
interested in that.
I have a graph of Paleo Hebrew letters and signs, and then the gematria value of them actually open right now next to me. So if somebody can give me the verse and give me those names, I could try to find out what it
Like your
equals out to.
like your
Oh,
wife.
that would be cool.
Does anybody know what verse that is in Enoch about the moon? I don't have my Enoch book with me right now.
Is
Do
it
you know what?
chapter 73 or 74? Hang on one second.
Yeah, I'm looking for it. Sorry.
Okay, the moon has 4 names. The first name is Asonia, the second Ebla, the third Beniz, and the fourth Ire, and I could totally be butchering that. But let's see if I can try to. I found better. Hold on.
So you're saying the paleo has 4 names for the moon?
I don't know if this is in Paleo because we have it in English. But
It's
but
kind of
with
like
Greek
in the
words,
in the modern we've got Yarek, and that's just moon. It's not Kodesh. It's just moon.
right?
It's only one word modern for the moon. So my question would be, if there's 4 or in the paleo is what you're saying?
Well, no, in the book of Enoch, it's saying that the sun has 2 names and the moon has 4.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And so, what Katrina was suggesting was taking those 4 names of the moon and converting them to Paleo Hebrew, which actually we would have to go to like Greek text, or if the Dead Sea Scrolls have that in them, we can convert it from there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That it might be a task to do that though, you know.
Yeah, Joel's working on some stuff on the paleo. So that'll be interesting what he comes up with. He's been working on it for a while. Just not good enough to say anything about it yet. So
Yeah. I'll have to do some research, see when or see if that specific verse and chapter is in the Dead Sea Scrolls version or not.
uh-huh.
And if not, we'll have to go to the Greek version and see.
So in the paleo, would it be Yod Resh Het, as far as the moon goes.
That's a good question.
Would it be Yod Resh Het?
For one of the names?
Yeah, that's how you spell it in modern. It would be Yod Resh Het in the modern.
So yeah, we'd have to break that down to the Paleo Hebrew and then figure out the meanings of those words and kind of put it together.
Yeah. Now in that book, she's giving each meaning for each letter. So to go back and look through that book and put all the meanings together for Yod and all the meanings together for Resh and all the meanings together for the Het, might be able to come up with something if that's how it's really spelled in the Paleo.
Yeah.
Be interesting.
Yeah, definitely. I'm gonna have to get that book as well. Very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, some of the meanings she's saying that they're saying in the modern and the definitions of it, of that letter or word is false. Similar to.
I would agree because the modern Hebrew they have that Babylonian added into it, and they're changing the definitions of words to fit their Babylonian understanding of things.
It's funny how the language kind of was reiterated the same time they became a state, but yet again the Dead Sea Scrolls come out at the same time. So maybe to defute the both, I don't know.
Yeah, they're basically saying that the modern Hebrew is actually Aramaic. It's basically the Aramaic language. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just a little thing on Google, just kind of messing around. I looked at what a Sonia means in Greek, and it said it's not a Greek name, but there's some information about it, and it derives from the Greek name Sophia, which means wisdom. And that's just one of the names of the moon.
Isn't that what one of the verses we read said earlier? Something with the moon and wisdom.
Isn't that in a psalm?
Yeah, I think so. I thought we just read it today. I'm pretty sure we did, actually. It had to have been one of the verses we read today, I believe.
Would it be okay if I present something to you all?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yes, I cannot wait.
Okay, this is just a really big what if, just a huge what if, okay? I want to start with, I did type this out last week, so I am going to read it. So if it sounds a little cheesy, that's why. But I wanted to start with the lie that serpent told Eve in the garden. It's the oldest trick in the book. He told her that she wouldn't die that day. And he didn't lie. She didn't die that day. Correct? I mean, we can all agree that they didn't die the day they ate the fruit.
Spiritually, they did.
Spiritually, yes, but
Yeah.
physically they didn't. So he was lying and telling the truth at the same time. It's just being able to spot that deception in the truth that was actually a lie.
Mm-hmm.
So here's my big what if. If we believe we are in Satan's little season and that Rome has set up our history, that everything that we understand has came and been filtered through Rome. So what if Rome is telling the truth? What if they're giving us the answers we need in plain sight? So that way it appears as if they are not lying. Again, this is a big what if. I am not claiming what I'm about to say to be true. It's something that I'm walking out. And I feel like I need to present it to everybody so everybody can go out and find the holes or find the truth in what I'm presenting, because I can't shake this. So I know that there's something there. By showing us the truth, for their deception, they could give us all the proof we need to prove the Sabbath is not Saturday every year. Now trail with me as we unfold these thoughts in my head. We are told in Christianity that the Messiah died on a Friday and was resurrected somehow by Sunday, the first day of the week, when Mary found the tomb empty. We are also told that Friday he died on a Good Friday, and that he rode in on Palm Sunday. But what if that is true? What if Yahusha died 33 AD on a Friday, as Rome states, on April 3rd Gregorian date, which lines up with Zadok Day 15 month 1? The equinox came in on March 23rd, 33 AD, which, if the documents I found and the math is correct, would actually be Gregorian March 20th, making this all line up so far. NASA and historical records have a rare lunar eclipse happening. Hang on one second. Weston, please stop, honey. NASA and historical records have a rare lunar eclipse happening at 1647 hours Jerusalem time in Jerusalem on April 3rd, 33 AD, as well as a solar eclipse on March 19th at 1250 hours. Now walk with me here. The equinox on 32 AD, Yahusha is baptized. 40 days later, on the second Passover lamb picking day, Yahusha is walking into town, and John declares, "Behold the Lamb." This is his 1-year ministry. That fall in 32 AD, Yahusha reads the passage from Isaiah declaring the Jubilee year starting, the year of Yahuah's favor. If you notice, from this point on, his disciples aren't working. He pulled them from their work through that summer, and by fall, no one is working. Is it possible that this year, 32 AD, was a Jubilee year Jubilee 110, making it the day 5.5 prophecy being fulfilled, declaring the Jubilee year, and the moon lined up, and their Sabbath was truly Saturday that year? Now, the next year, 33 AD, would have been a leap year. Lazarus dies on the equinox, and 4 days later, including Job's birthday, Yahusha resurrects him on the equinox, which was a Friday, 4 full days in the tomb. Also, day 1 for the sliver moon followers, and their Sabbath being the following day, Saturday. Remember, the 19th was a solar eclipse, so we had a 0 moon. On day 10, he rides into Jerusalem, which would have been a Sunday. Day 14 would have been that Thursday, and the day he was crucified would have been Friday, making day 18th, the Sabbath, a Monday, Resurrection Day, 2 days from the Sabbath because of a leap year the previous year. The first day of the week, Mary comes to him, and it's a Tuesday. Maybe why Rome has a big fat lie Tuesday before Ash Wednesday? Question mark. Now technically scripture is no longer lying. Yahusha rides in on a Sunday. He dies on a Friday. Mary goes to the tomb on the first day of the week, which would have been Tuesday, but appears as Sunday. And we have 33 being the most favored number of the Freemasons. We have 3 divine perfectness, and there is 2 of them in 33. You have Jubilee 110 being declared in his first year of ministry, confirming the 5.5-day prophecy. We can also note that the Jewish calendar, April 3rd, was Nisan 15 as well on 33 AD, but their Sabbaths were Saturday. Also note, the year of Yahuah's favor would have been the Jubilee year, the fall feast of fall feast. His whole ministry could have been in that time frame, and everything lining up Sabbath-wise. If that's what happens on a Jubilee year. I've not been alive for over 50 years, so I can't confirm that the moon is a witness like we saw this year in the calendar. But if that's the case, then we have the time he died would have been after the spring equinox following the Jubilee being declared. Now the Sabbath would appear to have shifted 2 days because it was a leap year. And we have the first month of the Messiah that year, his Sabbath would have been different than the Jews. So we have the baptism of Yeshua to the resurrection of Lazarus being a 1-year complete ministry with Saturday Sabbaths. The resurrection of Lazarus, his death, I'm sorry, my house is really loud. 15 days, he would have a different Sabbath. And from then on, I'm sorry, my children. If you notice, the remainder of the year after the Messiah dies, nobody is working still. Because it was a Jubilee year and he came and set the captives free with his death. Starting that fall at Atonement, the lot never fell on the goat, according to Jewish records on 33 AD. The temple earthquake was in Jerusalem on April 3rd, 33 AD, damaging the western wall. The moon as well on April 3rd, 33 AD, was known as a blood moon and rose prematurely that year. So I don't know if that was confusing. But
Wow,
what if Rome's
interesting.
telling us the truth in the fact that he did die on a Friday? And when they say he resurrected on the first day of the week, they're not lying. It's just assumed it's Sunday. Because if that's the case, he kept the Zadok calendar and his Sabbath wasn't Saturday that year that he died.
Because he died after the new year.
Yeah. He would have died in the first month after the new year.
And you were
So
saying it was a jubilee, and doesn't a jubilee represent release, like releasing?
Correct.
Yeah, I wanted to know something that I think you might find valuable. I've watched a teaching on Chinese history, and the Chinese actually recorded the death of Yahushua's crucifixion. Not just that, at that point in time, the Chinese worshipped the Almighty. Anyways, there's a Chinese record, and I don't recall the exact date, but you can look into it, of where I think it's the Yellow Emperor. The Yellow Emperor declared that all the sins of the world had been laid on one man, and that pardon had been proclaimed to all under heaven. And so the Yellow Emperor basically prophesied, or somehow understood, perhaps through the Almighty revealing it to him, that that Yahushua had been crucified. That being said, the interesting thing is that the Yellow Emperor records that not only was there a lunar eclipse, which was a full moon, but also a solar eclipse that same day.
Right. And there was, because the moon, it was a rare thing. When you look in it on April 3rd, 33 AD, a rare anomaly happened in Jerusalem, observed from Jerusalem.
Wow, I think that's pretty amazing, honestly.
Because again, it's a big if. And I mean, I have been reading through the scriptures to try to find where maybe I'm missing something. But if it is true, this is why they celebrate it every year, his death. Because, Rome prior to this, they hated it. They killed you if you believed in the Messiah. And then now all of a sudden they embraced this whole Messiah. They gave him a new name, a false deity. And I just got thinking, how can we show, the scripture shows the year of his ministry, the Sabbaths are lining up. So how can we show that his Sabbath was different? Well, if he died on a Friday, which would have been the 15th of the first month, his Sabbath was 3 days later, assuming he followed the Zadok calendar, which I believe he did.
Yeah, that's true.
So, like the serpent to Eve, just what if they're telling us the truth, that he did die on a Friday? And when they say he resurrected on the first day of the week, they're not lying now. You just think they mean Sunday.
I know, I
In
get that.
Christianity.
Can we do a tour? Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, that truth, unless you understand Yah's true calendar, it's going to seem confusing.
Well, not just that, but I had actually considered what you're talking about how when it says that he resurrected on the first day of the week, that perhaps it was the new moon sliver. The only thing that changed that perspective was the historical record from the Chinese that had said that it was a lunar eclipse and a full moon. Otherwise, I would have thought the same thing.
Right. Yes, it was definitely a lunar eclipse on that day. They had an earthquake that day, and that was the year that there was a solar eclipse on March 19th, making the sliver of the moon happen on the same day as the equinox. So that way the 15th of Aviv, the Zadok calendar, lined up with the 15th of Nisan. So it was literally the same day they were crucifying the lamb.
Wow, interesting.
So just
Wow,
something to walk out, because if we can prove that, then we can show that the Sabbath may have been the same on the year of the Jubilee, like we just witnessed this year, where it was the same and then it declared the Jubilee that fall, and it would have went to the following fall. Now, many people might say, well, the disciples followed him, so that was their work. No, he pulled them from their work, and then they weren't working. And every time he's teaching, why is nobody working?
That makes sense, honestly.
I mean, people are flocking to him like crazy, and they're not working. That was just like a big, I don't know, whenever I was walking this out, I just kept noticing nobody's working.
Well, and then the Pope this year declared it a jubilee.
Right. So then that would be my next question. What if, again, if this fall started a jubilee, we would have announced a jubilee. Is it the first of the 7th month you announce it? You blow the shofar to announce the jubilee? Or is it at Sukkot?
Yeah.
Yeah, I always get confused on the timing of that too, because I thought you announced the jubilee when the new year starts, but I guess not.
No, the jubilee overlaps. The jubilee will overlap the 49th year and the first year.
Okay.
And it'll go from fall to fall.
From fall to fall.
Right. So if you notice, his days, his week overlap, his months, and then his years. There's always this little part that overlaps, just like the jubilee. So if that was the case, when he declared the year of the Lord's favor, it was the year of a jubilee, and he died and set the captives free. And then you have the disciples sitting there waiting. They're just waiting. No one's working. They're waiting. They wait in the upper room. They get filled with the Spirit. They're speaking in other languages. And then they go and they just start spreading the gospel because, again, nobody's working yet. And what I found real interesting is in Jewish literature, in their Sanhedrin documentation, they have record on 33 AD when they went to do the atonement sacrifice. The lot wouldn't fall on it didn't fall on the goat that it always fell on, and the temple lights kept being blown out. On the day
Wow.
in 33 AD. It's a Sanhedrin document.
And the door would open too, right?
Right, the door kept flying open, right.
And the
So
Pope
all
just opened a door too.
yeah. And all this happened that same year. So I know I've said it, I'm reiterating it, but just what if they're telling us the truth on the days that happened? He rode in on a Sunday, he died on a Friday, and he resurrected on the Sabbath, which would have been a Monday. But when Mary saw him, it was the first day of the week. And now they just told us the complete truth, and you just assumed it was Sunday because of your indoctrination.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, that's what we said too.
I think Davidson mentioned the Monday thing too.
Did he?
Yeah, I think he knows it. Yeah.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, here's what I know. I know when you Google things, you can Google things to get the answer you want. So I'm like Googling every form of question that sounds like I'm not looking for something. And it was just really quite fascinating how all of it just kept lining up to what I was feeling inside. But I wanted to present it to you guys to go and read through the Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, walk this out, see if maybe I'm missing something, see if there's another key. But I can't get over Lazarus being dead for 4 days in the tomb. And when they come to him and tell him Lazarus died, he's like, isn't there 12 hours in a day? I'm like, what is he telling us? Is he telling us this is the divider day? And then he's in the tomb for 4 days? Because after he resurrects Lazarus, that's when they're dead set on killing him and he dies.
Yeah,
Ah.
and, wow. And it would make
So I'm like,
sense
Yeah,
if
because
he
he
because
said if he
um,
said if I came, then you wouldn't have been able. Okay, somebody needs to look up that. Okay, hold on. Sorry.
So then you've got him
so,
resurrecting Lazarus on the same day that he himself was baptized. And on the same day that the Son enters the fourth gate.
wow.
And guess
That's,
what they did that night? They gathered. We would have gathered on the fourth,
yeah,
you know what I mean? On the equinox.
yeah, because
Or the
it is
Takufa,
a day
right?
of
I don't want to.
remembrance. Yeah,
Right. And guess
Takufa. Yeah,
what?
exactly.
Lazarus remembered that day, I bet. I bet you he remembered that
And
day.
and it would make sense because prior to that Passover, they were on the same Shabbat because of all the verses that say so. But then, yeah, when you get to Passover, it wouldn't have been because it would have changed.
Right. And
Yeah,
finding out that there was a solar eclipse on the 19th shows that as of March 19th, there was no moon. So if the Jewish record states that Friday, April 3rd was also their Nisan 15, that means the sliver showed up on the day of the equinox that year.
yeah, wow.
Because the Sanhedrin would have been following the sliver. And
I've
if
got a
I recall, go ahead.
I've got a question, and it's kind of pertaining to it, but yet again not. I was thinking how the Four Seasons and Jubilees is a memorial. He says it's a memorial, and you got four letters to Yod Hey Wahe, and then you've got four different trumpet sounds from the shofar, and I'm wondering if they blew like the first blast at one season, blew the second blast at the second season, the third blast at the third season, and the fourth blast at the fourth season.
Yeah,
Oh, that would
I
have been
was
cool. Different sounds, different
Different
frequency.
sounds. Yeah, Paul talks
yeah,
about if you don't know the sound, how will you know?
wow.
Right, because they did have different sounds. They talk about it, I think, is it in
Yeah,
Numbers?
Numbers chapter 10. Yeah,
Yeah, it talks about different sounds, so they would know what to do.
yeah,
Yeah, and it does talk because that verse in Psalms isn't talking about it on a new moon, talking about these four seasonal days or
yeah.
Right, in their
these four
fullness.
Tekufas. Yeah, wow.
So
I just
please,
wonder, if the, if
Yeah,
the
they are.
priest came, if the priest came out and blew a certain blast, and the priest always came and told the people how things were. They were the ones that were to go out and share with the people when this event happened, that event happened. So I just wondered if one of those blasts they'd go out and everybody hear that blast, they'd know that blast, so they knew, okay, this is the beginning of the first season. Okay, I don't know. It's just interesting.
it's very interesting. But please study this out if you feel convicted to and you feel led to. I don't care to be proved wrong. I just want his truth. I just couldn't
Mhm.
shake it. And I just kept digging and I kept digging. And I was like, I gotta put this down and I gotta share this because you guys all love to study the word. And I really think that if this is truth, this is the proof we need.
Yeah, it's wow.
Yeah, it all does seem to be lining up eerily the same.
It's like a double deception. They tell you the truth and you follow that and you're wrong. But then if you know it's wrong and you look for the truth and you follow their false Sabbath, then it's another deception.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that's how Satan works. It's like what I feel is coming is a revealing of truth that makes people follow a deeper deception. Like that's
Yeah,
where I
because
feel like we are in the timeline.
if you think about it, they track the dates and their monthly dates because March 16th, March 20th, they got those, but everything else is going to be off. So I would think it's the same exact, just like everything else. It's right there, hidden in plain sight. But then you think it's the wrong way, so you don't want to look that way. So you're always looking in a different direction.
Exactly, because like when I first came
And it,
to understanding I was supposed to keep Torah and not keep Christmas, I was like, Rome bad, which it is. But then when I realized where we were on the timeline, I'm like, oh, I got to go back and look at what Rome is doing because they're keeping certain things true, but they have us believing it's all false because it's Rome.
I
But
wonder if
that's
their
not
beliefs
how.
in their court and shining the shadow is telling something that they
Mm,
know,
yeah.
because it does. It's shaped like a key, the whole Vatican area, but they got
right.
that off east up there. I'm wondering if that's their sundial, but they know what they're doing.
See, that's what I think.
Yeah.
If this is his season and he's in control, then he knows exactly how much time he has left.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And he knows exactly when the end of time is
Mm-hmm.
because he was the first created. That's why he's so jealous, the firstborn.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Yeah, he knows his day is short. He knows when it is. I'm
Oh,
sure.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think he deceives himself and thinks he can still win.
Yeah,
But
well, he's the
but
king of deceiving.
yeah, he deceives his own self.
I agree.
Exactly.
now, the last declared Jubilee was by Pope John Paul II, and that was in the year 2000. And so their Jubilees go by 25 years, not 50. So it just cuts in half what they follow like half of that.
Well, because Satan wants to do it better,
Interesting.
Right,
right? So, hey, we're going to give you 2 Jubilees. He's only giving you 1.
right.
So we could just cut their jubilees in half and get the correct number then.
Yeah. And here on the little thingy that I have pulled up, it said, here are some things to expect during the year 2025 Jubilee. Millions of pilgrims will visit Rome to pay homage at churches, shrines, and other places of worship. So there's going to be a lot of major events taking place apparently this year.
Which, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm still learning this, but so there's 3 feasts that the men were required to travel, but the year of the Jubilee, was it supposed to be the whole family traveled to Sukkot? Like it was a bigger traveling on the Jubilee year?
Hmm. I'd I'd have to study that out a bit more. It could be. Do you know where that would be found?
I'm not off the top of my head. I'm just thinking, if we're not working the garden and we're not, doing what we're normally doing, that more people would be traveling because I know it was the Jubilee year that they are to read the whole Torah at Sukkot. That might be in Deuteronomy now that I'm saying it out loud, towards the end of Deuteronomy.
So
Yeah.
you said they wouldn't be working on the Jubilee. Does the Jubilee year also fall on a 7th year land rest?
Yes, it overlaps.
Okay.
But and I could be wrong, and this could totally just like blow everything I think out of the water. But if it's a land rest, it's not a rest like from work. It's the Jubilee year that it's a rest.
Uh,
Oh.
let, Jeremy, went back and watched that video on the Britain thing. Did you notice on there when they said Messiah died on the 27th year in that book you put up?
Interesting.
Yeah, it said the
Yeah.
27th year. Do you remember that?
No, I need to go back and listen to it again. There's some
Yeah, it
things
said
I
the
missed. But
27th year, and it was interesting because what I've mapped out is 2027 is going to be a Shemitah, and 2028 is going to be a Jubilee. That's how I'm seeing it at this point.
interesting.
I know, and right now, all we have is, what is it, like hypotheses? Is that a word? Or
Yeah.
guesstimates? Because I haven't been alive for 2 Jubilee years, nor was I keeping Torah my whole life. You know, so I haven't witnessed what a Jubilee year looks like, except I have witnessed that my garden didn't garden this year.
Yeah, this last year, many people were having problems with gardening, even me.
You know, and it could also be, you know, what they're doing to mess up the soil and do whatever and make you think it's something else that
Yeah.
it's not. It could be a number of things.
Which we know that he was given control over, Hasatan was, for such things.
Yeah, it's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially with the poisoning of the air and the water.
Mm-hmm.
All that affects the plants as well.
I mean, most people water their gardens with the city water, which is filled with nasty stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And
Okay. It was in Deuteronomy 31, verse 10 through 12. At the end of 7 years, at the appointed time, the year of release, at the festival of Sukkot, when all Israel comes to appear before Yahuwah your Elohim in the place which he chooses, read this Torah before all Israel in their hearing. Assemble the people, the men and the women and the little ones, and your sojourner who is within your gates, so that they hear and so that they learn to fear Yahuwah your Elohim and to guard to do all the words of this Torah. So it looks like it was the whole family.
yeah,
Which then
and
explains.
on Sukkot.
No, go
Sorry,
ahead. That's
Yeah.
okay.
on Sukkot as well. Yeah.
Would that be a Shemitah or a Jubilee?
So
It says at the end of 7 years.
It would be the 49th, but they declare their Jubilee on the 49th at that festival. They declare it.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes from fall feast to fall feast. It overlaps the 1st and the 49th.
Correct. But they're saying it's at the end of 7 years. So wouldn't that also be a Shemitah?
Yes,
Yeah,
correct.
With the Jubilee getting ready to be declared?
Correct. So they would have
Okay.
already had a land rest. And then if Jubilee year means a non-work and land rest, that's if. Because when I Google stuff like that, I don't get any answers at all, like anything.
Yeah, it's something we would have to search through the scriptures, find out exactly.
You might find more in some of the Dead Sea Scroll stuff.
Yeah, that as well.
Especially since we know that, the ones that preserved the Dead Sea Scrolls were the ones that were keeping the true calendar. I mean, that's not something that they would have just not talked about.
Yeah,
They would
correct.
have mapped it out precisely.
Yeah, we still got a lot of research to do. Can never stop. Yeah, it's
But it's
amazing.
so exciting.
It is really.
And I could have misunderstood the whole assignment Yah was giving me. So if you guys find the loops or find where, my studies are wrong, again, I'm not here to be right. I just want his truth. This is just where my brain went when I was thinking these thoughts, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Oh yeah, I always feel like in amongst trying to go through the deceptions, um, you're always going to find some kind of gem. Probably have to go through a lot of deception, but you're always going to find some kind of gem.
Right. And I just kept thinking about Eve in the garden. She walked with Yahuwah. She knew the truth. And so when the serpent told her, she had to have known he was telling her the truth and had no clue that he was deceiving her, or she wouldn't have done it.
Or at
So
least
if,
omitting some of the truth.
right. So if Rome represents Hasatan's whole plan, then they had to present just enough truth that they're not lying, but they are, if that makes sense.
No, it does. It does. Because Hasatan knows that he can't just give anything but lies. Because, and this is how I think of it, our body, like, even though we don't understand some things, like, I know anybody here in this chat can agree that, like, when you come across something that's true, I don't know about anybody else, but I like feel like a burning sensation like in my chest. Like it just like it feels right. I don't understand why, but it feels right. And like with especially when you get your first conviction on starting to keep his laws and walking them out and learning surely by slowly that trusting him and he will literally direct your path, and then revelation after revelation is coming once you start obeying the little things, and just more and more keeps coming. Our beings resonate truth even if our brains don't understand it, because if the mind is blind, then the eyes won't see.
I completely 100% agree with you on that. When I found out about all of it, it's all of the truth, I usually get this chill like sensation. I think I just explained to Adrian that it's almost as if the Ruach is giving me a hug.
Yes.
When you hear certain truths, it's like your body resonates somehow. Like
Yes.
chills all over your body. The hair stands up on the back of your neck.
Like my
And
toes
Yeah.
tingle, and it just like when I came to the truth about biblical cosmology, like I didn't fully understand all of it immediately, but like something in me was just like, yes, this feels like it. Even though we've had so many years of indoctrination in it, just that one small truth, and it just blew all that away. And that's what the truth does. Anything that you've been indoctrinated and been blinded by, just a little bit of that truth peeking through is going to start help you, be like, oh, I didn't realize I had to look for something.
that's that
Yeah,
light
I
that shines.
definitely. Sorry, go ahead.
I just said that's that light that shines in the dark. The darkness can't hide from it.
No, it can't. To me, it definitely feels like the truth, and it's a frequency. It resonates within your spirit, and if there's still leaven that's in the way, what I've found is that when truth gets revealed, and I've had some serious blockages to it. Like I'll be sick. I will literally be physically sick um, upon the truth being revealed to me. Um,
Yes.
and It's like I immediately have to deal with whatever those blocks are, and the Ruach usually shows me right away. But I get sick because there was something that I have to detox. Some leaven, some lie, some stronghold that was blocking being able to see and understand the truth.
Yeah.
And I definitely think the frequency of the truth does that to our bodies.
Yes, because I think what's happening is, Katrina, the first day that we were all on this group, and she was like, expect for your head to hurt really bad after this. It's because that indoctrination is putting that block in your mind, and Yah's truth, because we're
Yes.
not used to it, is literally pummeling down those blockages, and you're rewriting your brain. I mean, it's literally a rewriting of what is true and what is false, and it hurts our head because, well, all we have is inherited lies.
Right.
Well, if we are the clay and he is the potter, have you ever broken a dish before? Like got a crack in a clay pot? You have to break it back down to reform it. And I agree with all of what all of you has said. For me, Yah has been working for the past year. I noticed he showed it to me, obviously. Otherwise, I would have never noticed my own flaws. But I noticed that I was the type of person, I am going to prove you wrong. And he revealed every time that anger feeling came over me when I heard something. Very first one I really reacted to was I heard somebody say you're supposed to keep the Torah. No, I have to prove you wrong. I have to prove to you there's a rapture, and I have to prove to you you're not supposed to keep Torah that was nailed to the cross. And guess what happened? It was a huge humbling experience. I found out I was wrong. So now when I feel that kind of anger or wanting to prove somebody wrong, I'm now going, okay, you must be speaking something true, because something in me is not liking it.
Yeah.
Now, I don't have that feeling hardly anymore. I really don't. But that was my big indicator that certain things, they have to be true, because